Welcome to Indiana University basketball. We're about a half hour away from the start of tonight's game, and the arena, the field house, is beginning to fill up. It should be a good game between the Wisconsin Badgers and the Indiana Hoosiers. The Hoosiers 4-5 in conference play to this date. Wisconsin with only one victory in 9 outings, 1-8, and nonetheless, it's a competitive team that Steve Yoder will be bringing on the court tonight. Indiana last week had its difficulty. They lost to Iowa, but then split in that series as they came back with a very decisive win over Minnesota. Wisconsin, on the other hand, went up to Michigan. They played the Twins up there, losing to Michigan and to Michigan State. This is the 110th meeting between these two teams. Indiana owns a decided 71-38 margin over the years, and in the last time these two teams met, which was early in January, it was Indiana bringing out a very decisive victory in that game, 92-68. John Laskowski, I know that the game of basketball has so many turns and so many ups and downs. I think Indiana can benefit greatly by, number one, what they learned since the Illinois game starting the freshmen. We've talked briefly about that. They had a very difficult time rebounding against Iowa, but they really came back strong against Minnesota. And Uwe Blop seems to be a catalyst in these three games.
I'll tell you, that last game against Minnesota really put Uwe back where he should be. He's been the leading scorer and leading rebounder in each of the last 3 games. And, of course, for those people who saw that first half of the Minnesota game last Saturday, it's probably as well as you'll ever see Uwe play. He went 10 for 10 from the field, just dominated the game. And I think what has happened to Uwe is that now that he's a senior, he's seen all these Big Ten teams a couple times before, and now he's the dominant big man as opposed to looking up to a guy like Randy Brewer, who played at Minnesota, Greg Stokes, who plays for Iowa. Now he's used to seeing these guys, and he's coming around saying, look, I'm just as good as you guys are, and now I'm going to show you. So it's finally good to see Uwe come into his own.
This young man, when we stop to consider how many years he's played the game of basketball, which has not been that much in American language, has taken each stage of this game very intensely. He has taken the direction. I know the coaches, Joby Wright and Jim Cruz, have worked with him very hard underneath on the post hook. They've also worked very hard with him on stepping in after receiving the pass, going straight up with the ball. And these are things that many of us take for granted when we see our young athletes grow up. With him, it's a learning process.
Well, you've seen in practice how much they work on that. The other thing the fans can watch for today is his leadership on the floor. Watch how often he's talking to the other players to be here or be there, and that's a big difference in his game this year than from last year.
A sad note for Wisconsin, their starting sophomore guard of so many games, Mike Heineman, came up with a shoulder injury, suffered in a game earlier against Purdue, and then a hip injury that occurred in practice. He will play tonight, according to coach, but he's lame.
He's a real scrappy player. Everybody around Connersville knows that, and Steve Yoder would love to have him in the lineup, but he's just not, I don't know how much he's going to be able to play today. Of course, everybody knows about Rick Olson, their fine guard. Seems he always has good games against Indiana. And then Scott Roth averaging about 19 points a game, a big 6'9" senior for Wisconsin. He's done some good scoring for them this year.
Well, there are a lot of differentials that Indiana is going to have to watch out for on this team. Roth, Ploss can have a good game in the middle. Olson, of course, and Heineman, when he's in there, shows great leadership off the ball. And we'll be back as John will talk in just a few minutes to head coach Steve Yoder. But our pregame and action before the game here on the court at Wisconsin Fieldhouse will continue after we take time out to listen to this.
Want to know the secret of my delicious lasagna? Fresh taste that's ready in a snap. It's Chef Boyardee Complete Lasagna Dinner. Tender beef, thick, rich sauce, tangy cheese, and real lasagna pasta. Ready to serve up fresh in minutes.
This tastes great, Mom.
Never knew you could make lasagna like this.
Neither did I, till I found the chef. Chef Boyardee Lasagna and Spaghetti Dinners. Fresh taste, ready in a snap.
Thank goodness for Chef Boyardee.
Take a turn off Wall Street, and here I am, in Indiana. What's this? Your old friend's tax time savings. Look at this 98 Regency's price. A Cutlass Sierra this low? They're practically giving away Calais. Other dealers talked value, but these savings are on Oldsmobiles. The shrewdest investments going are at your old friends. While I'm here, think I'll look up some of my old friends. Some Colts from Baltimore.
Come on, America, on your feet.
We keep you out there working. We keep you out there playing. Contact King
a cold, nothing opens you up and lets you breathe better than Contact to keep you on your feet.
Contact, we keep America on its feet.
Okay, who's got 39-cent regular hamburgers? Burger King, sir. And 49-cent cheeseburger? Burger King, sir. Poor stuff. Whose regular burger is made with 25% more meat than McDonald's? Burger King, sir. And how does Burger King cook them? Dear, flame broiled, sir. And will they have these 39-cent burgers forever, man? No, sir. Then move out. Hut, hut.
Burger King, it tastes so fine, now it costs $39. Aren't you hungry for Burger King now?
Wisconsin Badger coach Steve Yoder is in his third year here at Wisconsin, and we must say that it's an almost all Indiana flavor on this coaching staff, John.
It sure is. He's got, of course, Governor Bowen's son as one on his staff, Brad McNulty from Kokomo, and then Ray McCallum, former Ball State player who played for Steve Yoder at Ball State.
Well, John had the pleasure of talking to Coach Yoder before the program tonight, and his first question to Coach was, with a 1-8 record, what has the team learned from those 8 losses?
Well, there's not a whole lot you learn. One thing that happens mentally, you get down, John. I know that's been the biggest problem right now, is that we've got down mentally, and we can't. It's tough to play 40 minutes. We find ourselves playing 20, 25 minutes of pretty good basketball, and then it's tough to play the other 15. And it seems like you're always fighting from behind. If you dig yourself a hole early, then you're fighting to come back, and it's tough when you get in those situations. We've played extremely well in certain games, and then in other games it just seems to be a struggle. But this is the second half of the season now in the Big Ten, and we're still 10-9 overall, and we know if we can get 4 or 5 more wins, we've had a great year with what we started out with here this year, and so that's what we're looking for right now, is just to try to improve on the second half.
2 of your key players, Scott Roth and Rick Olson, pretty much leaders of the team. Tell us about these 2 fellows.
Well, of course, Roth's a senior, and he's been our forward for the last 3 years at that one forward spot, and consistently playing very well for us this year. Olson has been a starting guard since he's a freshman here. He's a junior. But, you're not going to have a club that you're going to have more than 2 players, and other guys have to take up the slack. There's got to be a lot of role playing going on, and we haven't had, we haven't had a dominant rebounder. We haven't had a dominant assist man. And we need another guy or 2 to pick up some of that scoring slack. And, of course, we're hurting on the quickness side, too. We don't have a lot of quickness, and when you don't have that, you need a lot of good help defense, and our help defense isn't real quick either, so we're struggling with those things.
2 Indiana high school products, Mike Heineman from Connorsville and Shelton Smith from Cathedral.
Yes, and of course Mike's a sophomore and Shelton's a freshman, and we feel like our freshmen and sophomores are going to develop into very good players, but it's tough to keep things going with freshmen and sophomores, so we need a little more help, and I think we've got that, and we've still got a couple scholarships to give, so we're working towards filling those up also.
All right, Indiana comes in with a win against Minnesota last Saturday. Obviously, Uwe Blop and Steve Alford, the big offensive thrust for Indiana. What will you try to do today against those 2 players?
Well, oddly enough, we've always had some success against Blop, and I don't know, I can't put my finger on that. John Ploss has usually played very well against Uwe on defense. Ploss has never been much of a threat on offense. Alford plays very, very well consistently against most people. I mean, he's been very, very consistent against us. I just think that we've got to control Blob tonight and hope that Alford doesn't have one of those big nights.
All right, Coach, best of luck in today's game, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, John.
The Badgers are on the court in preparation for tonight's opening tip-off. We're still waiting for Indiana, and we'll be back in just a minute to listen and watch Pop Knight analyze tonight's game in just a minute.
So don't miss the big savings at Highlands International Event. Going
Highland International Event? Oh.
Highlands!
Hello, you. We require big savings, please. You're welcome.
Well, everything's on sale.
Oh, you slay me, brother.
Get this Panasonic VHS 14-day programmable VCR for just $326.
This has 50 watts per channel.
50 watts?
And save $81 on this Sanyo complete audio system with cabinet, just $318.
Island! Where Plachny?
50 watts per channel, baby kicks.
Highlands International event, now through Saturday.
Introducing Cold Factor 12, the world's first liquid cold formula for a truly boring night's sleep. New Cold Factor 12 is the only liquid that decongests for 12 full hours, so all you do is breathe in and out through your nose all night. In and out, in and out. Boring, isn't it? And wake up still breathing free and clear in the morning. That's the exciting part. New Cold Factor 12, the good night, good morning cold medicine. Another Penn Kinetic product from Penwalt.
Don't miss a single play of exciting basketball action Saturday night as the Purdue Boilermakers travel to East Lansing, Michigan to battle the Michigan State Spartans. Senior Steve Reed and his Boilermaker teammates will have revenge on their minds after last year's 10-point defeat at Michigan State, but State and Sam Vincent want to make it 2 in a row at home. Catch all the action of the Purdue Boilermakers and the Michigan State Spartans Saturday night at 7 on the Indiana Sports Network, WTTV Channel 4.
Well, John, there have been a lot of great Indiana-Wisconsin games here at the Wisconsin Fieldhouse, and I remember back in 73, 74, and 75, the Twin Towers, Kim and Kerry Hughes. You've got some great memories, haven't you?
They were a great group to play against. I'll never forget the game in 75, Chuck, when Indiana was #1. Sports Illustrated did a big story on us here, and I was fortunate enough to get my picture on the cover, and they had a shot in the background of the scoreboard, and they had the sign up there about the milk, and I'll never forget the Wisconsin scoreboard, because each time I look at that picture, I see the big scoreboard in the background.
Bob Knight earlier this week took an opportunity once again to give us an overview of tonight's game. He talks a little bit about the great defense that they had to employ against the Minnesota Golden Gophers and what he might expect tonight from Wisconsin. Here is Coach Bob Knight.
Saturday last week, when we were getting ready for the Minnesota game, I tried to show you what we were going to have to do against Minnesota's zone defenses, as well as what Minnesota did on offense. Now, in tonight's game against Wisconsin, we have a little bit different situation. I'm not really sure what Wisconsin will use against us. We have an uncertainty both offensively and defensively. An interesting thing from the Minnesota game was that they used a lineup entirely different from what we thought they would start. It put us, we felt, at a real disadvantage in terms of size on the boards. We had Brooks at 6'4" on somebody 6'7", and Isle at 6'6" on somebody 6'9", where we had originally thought they would start 3 guards. So just before the game, we had to make a decision to change our own lineup or go with what we had, and we went with the way we had it set up, which obviously worked out very well for us. But I thought I'd mention that because it's a kind of a decision that sometimes you are confronted with. Now, we have worked in preparing for Wisconsin to go against man-to-man defense and zone defense 2-3. Wisconsin has almost always, under the present coaching staff, played a 2-3 zone when it has used a zone. But yet, there are some other things that they could do. An example might be a box-and-1 against Steve Alford. I would doubt very much if they would play a box-and-1 against Uwe, because if they do, then that puts us in a position to get some great shots from the outside. Let me show you what would happen if it is a box-and-1 against Uwe. If that's the case, then we would start Steve Isle up on a high post and Uwe down low, or vice versa, and work an inside screening game. They would have 2 people, one on either side of the lane, involved along with the defensive man playing Uwe, containing and controlling Uwe inside, which would give Steve Isle some opportunity to move. It would also enable our 3 people on the perimeter to move into the gaps of this box, 3 really against 2, and get some pretty good shots, while these 2 people would be occupying 3 inside people. We then have a chance for 3 of our people to go against their 2 outside people. Now, I don't know that this will happen. I can't find my eraser here. Chuck's got it hidden from me. What is more likely, if it's a box-and-1 situation, is to play the man on Steve Alford. And what we would do under those circumstances then would be to play Steve Isle and Steve Alford and Uwe inside against the box. And then we would play Stu Robinson and Delray Brooks outside working the perimeter. We may slide Steve Isle outside and work inside with our two guys, Alford and Block. We've had to plan for this box and one because it's something that could very well happen. Now, also something that could happen would be playing both Alford and Block in a man-to-man situation, a triangle and two. 3 defensive men, pick up Alford with another man, and Block with another man. And if this is the case, the first thing we would want to do is split this point man. Brooks, Robinson, and we'd have Steve Isle working the baseline. We're going to try and set up for us what is a mismatch somewhere against this particular defensive formation. 3 people are really playing 4. We would try and run a stack situation maybe by keeping Alford on one side of the floor, thinking that both of these guys are going to work against him momentarily, and putting then Blop with him to occupy all 3 of these people with just 2 players. And then use Steve Isle in and out of the middle, and our 3 people over here would be working essentially against these 2, with 3 guys down here with Blop and Alford. So we've had to work to prepare for both the box and 1 and the triangle and 2. Whether we'll see them or not, I really don't know. We also have had to work against the standard 2-3 zone and against man-to-man defense. That's the offensive preparation that we've put into tonight's game. The defensive preparation we'll talk about in just a second and show you how it differs from last Saturday's game with Minnesota here in tonight's game with Wisconsin.
Your Money Mover card works at more locations throughout Indiana than any other bank card, and you can depend on it to get cash 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all the way from Boonville to Bristol. And at home, your Money Mover card lets you make deposits, payments, keep tabs on all your accounts, even transfer funds from one account to another. Money Mover Teller Network, brought to you by Indiana's best banks from Peru to Petersburg, Madison to Mexico, Muncie to Monticello, Newburgh to Navajo.
When you crave the taste of beef and cheddar, welcome to Arby's. Only Arby's starts with such lean roast beef, tops it with mouth-watering tangy cheddar cheese. Only Arby's serves it on a delicious onion roll. There's only one place to come for a beef and cheddar. To Arby's, you're right where you belong. Nothing's better than Arby's beef and cheddar. Right where you belong.
Take a look at a Tom Wood Toyota deal. A real close look. Get the feel of the car. Go all over it. Then check Tom Wood's price. That's a deal you won't want to let slide by.
Toyota Celica, a sleek performer, powerful too. Its 2.5-liter engine delivers 116 horsepower in all the right places. Drive one now at Tom Wood.
Tom Wood Toyota, 4202 Lafayette Road. Good cars, great prices. Any other deal is just for the birds.
The movie that set the beat and fired the soul.
Because I was young and single and I loved the mingle.
The music you move to.
You're not getting off easy because you're talented.
The songs you sing.
You work twice as hard.
The hopes and fears.
And you're going to suffer.
The fun and celebration.
And then there is sex.
Of young lives flirting with passion and devoted to a dream. The movie that started it all. Babe.
Fridays, 8 p.m. movie on Channel 4.
In our game Saturday, Minnesota had an offense that was primarily predicated on one-on-one play by the 3 guards outside, Davis, Alexander, and Wilson. That with feeding Shasky in the post. Our thinking going into the game was individual defense. We've got to have good one-on-one defensive play. If Davis has got the ball, we've got to be into him very tough with Robinson.
If Davis doesn't have the ball, we want to still play him very tough with Robinson, making it difficult for him to get the basketball. Now, we have one player like this in our game tonight, and that's Olsen. A very, very good offensive guard. He can take the ball to the bucket. He's a good shooter, an outstanding free throw shooter. And we've got to play him very tough with Robinson, with Brooks, trying to prevent him from getting the basketball. If he does get it, trying to make it very difficult for him to get the shot. The rest of the team, though, poses a different problem than Minnesota. Wisconsin does an awful lot of screening. Come down and screen, come off the screen looking for the ball right here. Now, one thing that we will try and do against this is switch. We'll try and make a defensive switch by coming under the screener and the defensive man on the screener jumping to the cutter to take away his path to the basketball. If we can prevent this pass, it will really be a big help to us defensively. Problem exists because Wisconsin often uses a guard to screen for the center. If we switch it, that means that Blopp could be guarding Olsen. And then Olsen's first move would be to screen and then to go outside, and now Blopp has to go with him. So we will switch any screens involving the big men. However, when a guard goes down to screen on a big man, we'll slide through. And that occasionally is where you get hung up and allow a shot from this area. Also, if we get a big man screening down on a guard and switch that, now the big man just moves into a post position, and we have a guard playing against him that makes it very difficult for us to maintain defensive advantage inside. So when we have the ball defensively, or when Wisconsin has the ball, rather, and we're playing defensively, look for our switching. Look for us to try and take away cuts and take away passes with the switch. Look for the guard screening and our fighting through the screen rather than switching in guard big man crosses involving an offensive screen. If we can work both of these things effectively defensively, we'll do a good job against Wisconsin's offense tonight. If we have trouble in either way, it'll be a problem for us. Tonight we're going to try, when we get the ball defensively, to get it down, spread court situation, try to get the ball to Blopp in the post in the early part of our offense, or look to get the good shot as we bring the ball into play. As the game develops, and you're listening to John and Chuck describe the action, look at what we've talked about and see how well we're doing it at either end of the court, because that'll give you an indication as to how well we're playing in tonight's ball game with Wisconsin.
An offensive and defensive look at tonight's game from the standpoint of Indiana and Coach Bobby Knight. And now, let's take a look at some of the key players who plan to play vital roles in tonight's game. Number 12 to watch is high-scoring guard Rick Olsen. Rick is 6'1", 165 pounds, from Madison, Wisconsin, and La Follette High School. He is a junior. Rick averages 16.3 points per game and shoots 49% from the field. His free throw percentage is 89% in Big Ten play. He has a high game of 31 points. In the last meeting between these two clubs, Rick ended up with 20 points. Last year, his high against Indiana was 28. In the 83-84 season, Rick was second leading scorer on the team behind Corey Blackwell with a 14 points per game average. He started all 28 games played for Coach Yoder last year. Number 32 for the Wisconsin Badgers is Scott Roth. Scott is a 6'8½", 210-pound senior forward from Brecksville, Ohio. He currently shoots 58% from the field and 73% from the free throw line. He's averaging 19.3 points per game and has a high game of 31 points. Last year, Scott averaged 13.5 points per game and shot 50% from the field, 80% from the stripe. In the last meeting between these two clubs, he ended up with 17 points. Scott led the team in assists and steals a year ago, the only forward in the conference to do so, and he led the Badgers in field goal percentage with 50%. Number 33 is Uwe Blopp. Uwe, a 7'2", 250-pound senior center from Munich, Germany, had one of his best performances of the year against the Minnesota Gophers last week as he ended the game with 26 points. That was high for the team. Uwe currently averages 16.2 points per game and shoots 57% from the field. He has bettered his free throw shooting this year to 72% from 64% last year. In the last meeting between these two clubs, Uwe finished the game with only 6 points. Uwe has continued to improve as a dominant center. Number 12 is Steve Alford. Steve is a 6'2", 170-pound sophomore guard from Newcastle, Indiana. Steve currently averages 19.3 points per game and shoots 58% from the field and 94% from the stripe. Steve is also coming off an excellent performance against Minnesota, in which he finished with 24 points, second only to Uwe Block. Steve has a string of 18 free throws going after having a string of 31 broken earlier this year. His game-high total of 32 for the season came against Kansas State. John, following last night's win by the Hawkeyes over the Golden Gophers, it really looks as if Iowa is one of the teams to beat in conference play.
Iowa now 8-2 on top of the league. Michigan right behind it, 7-2. Illinois, Michigan State, Ohio State, and Purdue all tied. Indiana now moves all alone into 6th place with 4-5 record. Minnesota, Wisconsin, and Northwestern rounds out the Big Ten. And in the schedule this week, today's games, Indiana at Wisconsin. Ohio State will be at Northwestern tonight. Illinois at Michigan State, and Purdue is at Michigan.
And of course, Indiana moves on from here to McGaw Hall, where they will be battling the Northwestern Wildcats this coming Saturday evening.
Ohio State also plays at Wisconsin Saturday. Purdue at Michigan State, and Illinois visits Michigan.
All right, those are the standings and the schedules for this week as the Badgers leave the court, and we're going to say goodbye to you now, but we'll be back in just a few minutes or so with tonight's contest.
If you like it hot,
Mild.
if you like it
Quiet. Wild.
you're gonna get it like you like it at the incredible Chi-Chi's.
Now for a delicious change of taste. Chi-Chi's seafood for Mexican food lovers. Seafood salads, seafood nachos, seafood chimneys, our seafood Cancun, and grilled halibut steak. Seafood's never tasted so incredible.
You're gonna get it like you like it
We do.
at the incredible Chi-Chi's.
My service charges just went up again.
We can't help that. Our costs went up. Morris Plan still gives you free checking with a $200 minimum. We have an IRA. Morris Plan has 2 convenient IRAs. We'll even lend you the money to start one. We have 24-hour tellers. Morris Plan offers money mover tellers almost everywhere.
I like that. What else can you do for me?
Let me tell you about our fixed and variable...
Morris Plan, the smart way to plan.
Goodness gracious.
See that, Baxter?
MCI saved its clientele $200 million last year.
Think of all the gray suits you could buy.
To be perfectly frank, Lenny, I'm skeptical about switching.
To be perfectly Lenny, Baxter, you like paying more for AT&T. Stop that.
Money isn't everything.
But MCI lets you call anywhere AT&T goes, coast to coast, anytime, any day.
Scout's honor?
Yeah, so get MCI.
What would a smart businessman do?
Need a hint, Baxter?
Call MCI now.
Fun that keeps you going.
All over town.
Fun that keeps you going.
Always around. When you're on the move, you can count on us. Got a lot to do with the name to trust. Fun that keeps you going. All over town. Fun that keeps you going. The best guys around. It's good to know when you're on the go. Fun that keeps you going.
See the movie that started it all, Fame, Friday night at 8 on Channel 4.
Never don't let we stand a soldier in the battle. We're tried and true. Indiana, Indiana, we're all for you.
It's mild in Madison, Wisconsin. We're live tonight from Wisconsin Fieldhouse, where tonight the Badgers are hosting the Indiana Hoosiers. Hello, everybody. I'm Chuck Marlowe along with John Laskowski. It's another exciting Big Ten contest. We hope you're prepared to enjoy. John, you and I have already had our dinner. We ate German food. We're in Germantown. I'm telling you, I ate too much. I'm going to have trouble all night tonight.
Well, let's hope that Indiana does not have trouble with Rick Olson. For some reason, Rick has always given Indiana a lot of trouble. A nice shooting guard from the outside, average about 18 points a game. He's gotten help this year from Scott Roth, a 6'9 senior, who's averaging 20 points, a few more than even Rick is. So between the two of them, they could do some damage. Indiana's got to be careful with those two players.
Lest we forget, or maybe erroneously remind the people, that with Roth and Olson and Mike Heineman, who will be playing tonight, even though he is injured, that casts an appearance of an outside game, of a perimeter game. But they do have a good lob that they like to use on the inside. They can either go to Roth or Floss on that, and Indiana has to be aware of that and get some good help.
John Floss is their big player inside, and they'll like to go into him. Look for Olson to be the key, though. Indiana, whoever Indiana puts on Olson has got to stay close on him, prevent that jump shot. But I think the big point of the game today is going to be Uwe. For all the fans that saw the game last Saturday against Minnesota, what a great job he did in that first half. He's been our leading scorer and rebounder in the last 3 ball games, and he's finally playing, I think, like everybody hoped someday he would. But thank goodness it's for Indiana still in his career.
Indiana, to attest to what you said, Indiana had a Mr. Outside, Mr. Inside game going last week with Blopp working the boards very well, coming up with 26 points against Minnesota. On the outside, it was Steve Alford with 24 points, but much of Alford's success was created not by his own motion, but by the good recognition of Blopp inside.
Uwe will pass the ball out, and I think Steve has also looked for those assists, and he's worked on his defense, all the things that Coach wanted him to do all along in this year.
Good off-ball play by Stu Robinson as well, by Steve Isle, who saw quite a bit of action, and will tonight as well, and by Winston Morgan, who's been playing better.
I think we'll see all these kids coming into it, and they've got to key up now on this road trip at Wisconsin and at Northwestern. You're not going to be able to find a trip in the Big Ten really that you have a better chance of winning 2 games in a row. And so you cannot let this slip away, especially with Indiana losing the 4 games in a row they did. Iowa's moving out in the lead. Indiana's got to stay right with them. It starts tonight against Wisconsin.
The coach has said all season that this team is very inconsistent. Therefore, he's looking for consistency. Would you say that still represents itself tonight? Is that what he's looking for here?
I would think both teams. I'm not sure which team you're mentioning to, but I think both teams that's going to affect. Talking to Coach Yoder before the game, he felt his big problem was his consistency. They had a 9-point lead with 9 minutes to go against Purdue and ended up losing that game. But I think as far as consistency, Indiana is coming around now. Against Iowa, it was a tough loss for us. We were just kind of regrouping, but against Minnesota, I think they showed the kind of ball they can play.
All right, we're set for the action, and it's going to be coming here in just a moment from Madison, Wisconsin, the Badgers versus the Hoosiers. And we'll be back with the starting lineups in just a minute.
I love this. We just added a family room. Now the family has a room, and I have quiet. No space blasters, no rock music. Just quiet. We got the loan from AFNB. They talk about having the advantage. Quiet. That's the advantage.
If you have a need, we have your loan. Because at American Fletcher, the advantage is yours.
American Fletcher.
This Bud's for everyone who keeps things rolling in the mighty Mississippi.
Breakaway barge, please respond.
Let's get him.
This is the Nathan Golding. We're right below here and we on our way out.
I'll come around on the port side and bumper there.
Yeah, just for you. That distinctively clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser.
For all you do, this Bud's for you.
These 2 Buick Skyhawks look identical. The same sporty lines, the same careful attention to detail, the same inviting interior.
But there is one big difference, the low Stitzer Buick price. In fact, Dave Stitzer's price is so low, he puts it right on the window of every car. How can he do it?
Buick makes the car, but I make the price. And this Dave doesn't need as much money.
Dave Stitzer Buick and GMC truck, 5050 West 38th Street. The big difference is the low price.
You know why I come to CarQuest Auto Parts stores? This man, the CarQuest qualified counterman. He's got hundreds of thousands of parts, and I can't tell you how often he's helped me out.
CarQuest can help with a full line of Borg-Warner carb kits, carburetor and emission control parts, and clutches. Get original equipment quality and performance with Borg-Warner at CarQuest.
I go to CarQuest, because sometimes you need all the help you can get.
CarQuest, the right place to buy auto parts.
Now we still have about 30 seconds to go before the starting lineups tonight. John, there's a great affinity between Indiana, Coach Bobby Knight. You see Bobby and Steve Yoder standing down there and talking, and some of the other members of this team. Of course, Governor Otis Bowen has a great attachment to this squad as well.
His son Rick Bowen is the assistant coach for Steve. And we talked to little Mike Bowen, Governor Bowen, a little message to you from your grandson Mike. He was shooting around in a nice looking blue warm-up suit before the game, and he said to say hello, and he really enjoyed his trip down to Indiana this Christmas to visit with you.
All right, Indiana breaks for its bench, and now let's go down to the scorers table for tonight's lineups, and here's your public address announcer, Alan
Ladies
Sussman.
and gentlemen, welcome to the University of Wisconsin Fieldhouse. Tonight, the Wisconsin Badgers host the Hoosiers of Indiana University. Here are our starting lineups. At forward for Indiana, number 32, a 6'6 freshman from Hamilton, Ohio, Steve Isle. And for Wisconsin, number 40, a 6'7 sophomore from Wales, Wisconsin, J.J. Weber. For Indiana at forward, number 23, a 6'4 freshman from Michigan City, Indiana, Delray Brooks. And for Wisconsin, number 32, a 6'7 senior from Rexville, Ohio, Scott Rock. At guard for Indiana, number 22, a 6'1 junior from Anderson, Indiana, Stu Robinson. And for Wisconsin, number 12, a 6'1 sophomore from Madison, Wisconsin, Rick Olson. For Indiana at guard, number 12, a 6'2 sophomore from Newcastle, Indiana, Steve Alford. And for Wisconsin, number 24, a 6-foot freshman from Indianapolis, Indiana, Sheldon Smith. At center, number 33, a 7'2" senior from Munich, Germany, Uwe Block. And for Wisconsin, number 50, a 6'9 senior from Antioch, Illinois, Jaron Ploss.
All right, the introductions have been made. Of course, Bob Knight, the 14th year for Indiana. His record is 301. Well, we're going to have to improve upon that. I think I left a couple of games off his record. His record is 308 and 100. His 20th year overall, and his record is 410 and 150. Steve Yoder in his third year, 26 and 49 here at Wisconsin, and through 7 years and what remains of this year, he has 103 wins against 111 losses. Your officials for tonight's game, Eric Harmon, who's from Brookston, Indiana, and said to tell everybody back there, his family, that he made it up here to Madison, Wisconsin okay. Ed Marisich and Ralph Ross are the other two officials, and we're set to get things underway. There's a matchup, John.
The lineup for Indiana, I think you'll see Robinson start out on Olson. I think it's very important that Indiana clamp him down. For Wisconsin, Sheldon Smith from Indianapolis Cathedral High School. He'll be starting in place of Mike Heineman from Connersville. He's been bothered with a shoulder and hip injury, so Smith in the lineup now for Wisconsin.
All right, J.J. Weber will jump with Blopp, and the tip is controlled by Indiana. And it's going to be Robinson taking it up, and there is Olson stepping over. There's the matchup defensively for Wisconsin. Delray Brooks all alone. Steve Alford, oh, he's on right away. First shot, Indiana takes a 2-0 lead.
Wisconsin likes to play a zone. That time they're in a man-to-man, and nobody picked up Alford on the baseline.
Sheldon Smith, so it's going to be Robinson on Olson. Let's watch how Indiana defends the rub-off that Olson likes to use across the top. J.J. out to Ploss, down in the corner to Roth. Sheldon Smith comes over for the ball. They're really keeping Olson away from the ball. The shot from outside. It's good. Credit that basket to John Kloss.
In the Minnesota game, we saw Robinson start on Tommy Davis and just stay on Davis the whole time defensively, not helping out. He just sees to make the drive.
Inside, the ball was lost off the hand, and it's going to go out of bounds at this end of the court on a deep pass up court to Scott Roth. For the outlet, Wisconsin tried to use on the turnover, and they turned it over themselves.
The point I was trying to make, Chuck, again, in tonight's game, I think Robinson will play the same defense on Olson, which means you stay on Olson as long as you can without helping out. If there is a pick set for him, we may see him switch. Olson's a great shooter coming off of the pick.
Delray Brooks tries to get the ball inside the block. It comes out to Robinson. Indiana will be looking in as much as they can. There it is for Blob, but he punches right back out to Alford. 2 more.
Looked like the exact same spots for his second basket. That time, Wisconsin did go to their zone defense.
Sheldon Smith. This is John Kloss underneath, and the loose ball scrambled for it. We have a jump ball that's going to go to Wisconsin. 18-22. We played a little bit over a minute and a half. Indiana with a 4-2 lead. And Wisconsin to toss it in. Smith. Alford about a foot off him. Robinson on Olson. Olson does not need a screen. He can set himself up pretty well. Good drive by Scott Roth. And that's part of what he has to be denied, John.
Roth's really become a great scorer. Just all of a sudden, he and Olson, in fact, are 15th and 16th in scoring Wisconsin all time.
Block turns. He's fouled. Roth picks up his first. We are tied at 4. And we played just under 18 minutes. Let's look.
Just seems to me, Chuck, that Uwe just calls for the ball and moves to the ball a lot more aggressively than he ever has in the past. And one success leads to the next, and one 20-point game leads to a 25-point game, and now he gets hungry for the ball and works to get it harder, and that makes his offensive game much better.
Lopp was not in the act of shooting. It was a near steal by Olson. Alford with the ball. He looks for the lob. It's not there. Outside. Oh, it's no good. Block with good position. Right back up off the glass. No good. And the rebound comes off to Wisconsin. Here's Olson, left side. There's the drive. Feeds off. Roth. 2 more. And Wisconsin takes a 6-4 lead. Delray Brooks. Kyle looking inside. Wisconsin playing good man defense. Hook, good, and a foul.
Looked to me like on the rebound, the shot that Uwe just took the time before, he leaned away from the basket. Now look, he jumps straight up in the air and follows through with that right arm on the hook. Ploss had to push him away even, and Uwe still made the shot. The foul went on Ploss, and Uwe's got a chance for 3 here.
Uwe, 68% shooter in conference play, 72 on the season. This doesn't fall, and out come the Badgers. They go right to Roth, back to Smith. We will see Mike Heineman sometime tonight. That's from the lips of Steve Yoder, the coach. Off it goes to Ploss. It's no good. And a deep board over Blopp, but Robinson clears. Alford, no foul. 2 points. Now, the fans don't like that, and I wonder, had they made the call, whether it would have been charging or blocking, John.
Could have gone either way, I think, so the referee decided to make no call. Steve continued with the dribble.
Inside, off the leg. Isle gets a hand on it. Back out. Olson fires. It's no good, and the rebound to Alford keeps the dribble alive. Look at this. That's great ball handling. As long as the ball is bouncing, there's no travel, even though he may try to stand up.
And then he picked it up with one hand and threw the pass.
Blopp loses it. Indiana with an 8-6 lead. Wisconsin with the ball. They can tie. Scott Roth averages 20.1. Big Ten play. No basket. They count the basket. Yes. Give the field goal to John Ploss and give the personal foul to Delray Brooks, his first.
Quick ball movement around the horn, and Delray did not recover in time. He got called for grabbing down with his hand, but Wisconsin went right up with the basket.
Weber will shoot one.
We played 3 minutes, 57 seconds, and we're tied at 8. J.J. Weber rather than John Ploss. Weber with a field goal, misses the free throw, and Block gets the carom.
Weber goes 6'7", 215, so he's got a big height and weight advantage on Delray.
Delray Brooks, Mr. Basketball, co-Mr. Basketball, along with Purdue's Troy Lewis. Last year, the freshman handles the ball again. Steve Isle, Robinson, Alford, back to Isle, Brooks, in the block, and chased down in the corner. The bad angle on the pass, and Wisconsin gets the theft. Now the Badgers can take the lead. Ross, Weber, Ross outside. John Ploss averages less than 7 points on the season, 7 points per game, and he has 4 tonight. We still have 15 minutes, 5 seconds remaining in the first half. Wisconsin leads 10-8. Knocked away. Here's a 2-on-1. Misses the shot. Olsen had a bunny. Now Indiana can tie. The Blop, he'll stop.
Good offensive move by Uwe that time. He held his position until he raised his hand for the lob pass and did not let the defense close down on him and left himself an easy shot.
John, Indiana wins 90-68 at Assembly Hall earlier this year. What's Wisconsin doing different that they did not do in Bloomington?
Right now, Wisconsin's been able to run their offense, pass the ball 4 or 5 times, just like they have there, get an inside shot. And Indiana, until then, did not block the shot, but Indiana's got to do a better job on defense.
The fans wanted goaltending, and Alford comes back and quiets him down with his 4th field goal. Indiana 12-10. 14 minutes left in the first half. Indiana got the first basket, led 2-0. Wisconsin tied it up. It goes to Ploss. Over Block. Tip up and in. J.J. Weber wasn't blocked off the board, and he had a one-handed tip in.
That's Delray. We mentioned the height disadvantage. He's got to use his body awfully well in there to keep J.J. Weber outside.
Over the shoulder. Block gets a hand, tips it back, and out of bounds it goes. It'll be Indiana's ball. Good defense by John Ploss. John Ploss appears to be playing inspired ball, and with that last out of bounds, we have a timeout. You're watching Indiana basketball on the Farm Bureau Insurance Basketball Network. The score, Indiana 12, Wisconsin 12.
Too much.
$4?
Too high.
$3.50.
I'll give you $1.75.
Come on, Tom, it's worth at least $3.
$1.75, Virgil. Take it or leave it.
Okay, $1.75.
All right, folks, fly through the air like a bird. For only $2, the fifth part of a saw, the up in the sky. Do you hear me? $2.
Yeah, what can I do for you, sonny?
Can I go for a ride?
Have you got $2, my boy?
No, but I have $1.75.
Climb on board, my boy. The heavens await us.
Gus Grissom, another Indiana legend, brought to you with pride by Farm Bureau Insurance.
Always tough battles in the Big Ten, and a perennial arch rivalry is between Iowa and Minnesota. They had a game last night at Iowa at Carver Hawkeye Arena, and Iowa wins the game by 5, 70-65. As you look at Bob Knight, taking an apparent somewhat laid-back appearance. There's Mike Hyman from Connersville, Indiana in the lineup for the first time. Let's see how well Mike can play. Remember, we mentioned to some of you before the game started that he had a shoulder injury suffered in an earlier contest, and then in practice came up with a hip injury. So he hasn't played the last 3 games. Let's see how well he does tonight. Winston Morgan, there's a pass. He intercepted, and Olsen drives. This time he doesn't miss this one. His first field goal, and Wisconsin leads 14-12.
Winston came in the last time out for Delray to give Indiana a little more height inside.
And it appears that Indiana's going to make another substitution almost immediately as Marty Simmons reports to the scores table. The lob inside the block. He turns off the glass, no good. Rebound back up by Isle, but he's fouled. And John Plotz, I believe, early indications that he picked up his second foul. Okay.
Steve does a good job of going after offensive rebounds. Uwe missed a shot. Steve worked himself into position. Now he went right up from behind. Floss was there. Steve had to jump backwards, so really didn't have a chance to let his body protect that shot. The foul went against Floss.
Steve Isle at the line, shooting 2. Hamilton, Ohio freshman. Outstanding basketball player in that system. The Cincinnati suburb system last year. Second one is up, and he's good. 2 for 2. Indiana spends a lot of time, as well you know, John, shooting free throws, and they don't do it just to shoot at the basket. They do it after lengthy scrimmage.
Indiana's team percentage has been down this year, so coach has been working on that in practice.
Lob inside, and there's a foul. Marty Simmons. No, they call it on Alford from the front. Simmons was caught behind the play, and Alford came over to help out, committed the foul.
Indiana had trouble against a bigger Iowa lineup, and right now Wisconsin is giving them some trouble inside. Here's a lob pass to Weber. Steve comes to try to help out. There's the foul.
Shoot 2.
J.J. Weber, sophomore from Wales, Wisconsin. Hits 7 out of 10 from the line. Hits the first for his 5 points. Averages 7.1 in conference play, just a little bit better than that over the season. And misses the second. Rebound to Robinson. Indiana trails by 1, 15-14. The Hoosiers have the ball with 12:40 left in the first half. Outside Isle. It's there. Steve Isle with his first field goal and 4th point. And now the lead exchanges. Indiana 16-15. Kloss looks into Weber. Little shuffle, no call, off the front of the rim, and a foul. It's going to go against Heineman, backing into Alford in the blockout, and he sort of pushed him off his feet a little bit.
I'm sure the viewers in Connorsville and Newcastle have seen this battle a few times over the years. There's Heineman coming in from behind, Steve trying to block him out. The foul goes against Mike that time.
That's the 4th against the Badgers, and Indiana with a 1-point lead and the ball. Robinson drops it off. Isle from outside. No good. The rebound, Heineman. He does not come up the floor well, and he's limping. They call an official's timeout. Oh, I hate to see that. Mike holding his left hip, and there's Steve Alford. I think that's the hip he came down on. I was talking to one of the broadcast people for the Badgers up there, and he said that he'd come down on his left hip before. And he has just maybe come back a little soon.
Running up the floor. So he really limped a lot in pregame warm-up. He just looked like he was trying to come up the floor at full speed, and something gave away. The official made an official's timeout call right away, and Smith comes back in the lineup for Wisconsin.
For the Heineman family, they've moved him down to the end of the bench now, and the trainer's going to take a look at him. Wisconsin now with the ball. There was no charge timeout against Wisconsin. That was an injured player, an official's timeout. Inside, and jamming up on the inside, tips up, and no good over the basket by Weber. Wisconsin is getting extra effort at the basket. They're getting a second chance.
They're making a little cross cut underneath and getting wide open.
Block has it blocked by Weber. And Simmons hits from the corner.
A big roar from the crowd on that block, but Uwe had the presence of mind to knock the ball back out to his teammate and down to Marty for the shot.
Drive by Smith. Blocking foul against Block.
There you see the Indiana bench, Dr. Bamba and Coach. Smith's really a quick player. Uwe not quite there in time, and that's how Smith can hurt Indiana, driving on the inside.
11.5 minutes remaining. You're watching Indiana basketball at Wisconsin Fieldhouse in Madison, Wisconsin. Indiana leads the Badgers 18-15.
Hello, I'm Dale Osborne. I've been riding pasture land for some 40 years. See those antelope and deer over there? They're grazing on top of what was an Amex coal mine here in Wyoming. In the West and Midwest, Amex Coal Company goes to special care in reclaiming the land so that it's as good or better than it was before it was mined. Right, Mother Nature?
My friends think it's good enough to eat.
Amex Coal Company. we're resourceful with the land.
There you see the board and the time remaining. And, John, we've got a couple of interesting things here. You go right ahead.
First of all, the rest of the games tonight, Ohio State visits Northwestern. Illinois will be at Michigan State. And in a key matchup, Purdue goes against Michigan.
We have an opportunity later on. We'll watch the action now. But on the bench, and a success story, I think that really deserves mentioning is number 24 is Darrell Thomas for Indiana. Number 24, Sheldon Smith for Wisconsin. Fires from outside. It's going to be Wisconsin's ball. Isle had a hand on it, and Scott Roth deflected the hand. The hand is part of the ball, and so it's Wisconsin inbound. Smith across the top of the key. To Floss. Now back to Roth. They have really done a good job denying Olsen the ball until there. A double pick underneath, and Olsen rubbed off Robbins.
Double picks, usually you try to set your man out to about 15 feet, but Wisconsin's doing the reverse. They set a double pick out about 10 feet and have the man cut toward the basket, and that time Olsen is wide open.
Alford trapped on the baseline, gets it back out. Here's Isle. Alford will fire, no roll. Good block out by the Badgers, who trail by 1. Wisconsin playing good fundamentals on the board. And we have ourselves a game. Sheldon Smith. Wisconsin getting good motion. They block, reaching over on Floss and block. They committed his second foul. And now Winston Morgan for Robinson for Indiana.
Indiana had good success against Minnesota by keeping the ball away from Tommy Davis and forcing the outside shots. Now Wisconsin has moved right inside the red area there and gotten a lot of passes for easy shots and some fouls by Indiana. So the big difference here is the cuts Wisconsin's making inside that are open.
Smith. Weber back to Smith. Wisconsin looking patiently for the basket that can put them ahead. Roth leans in. Here is off the rim, out of bounds, Indiana. And Alford had a hand on it this time. I think it was deflected by Weber on the ball. So Indiana will bring it up. Now the shot by Ploss, and you can see right now, Wisconsin wants to take it at block. Here's Klopp. Bounces to Alford. Back to Isle. Simmons. Simmons has a good baseline. Winston Morgan back in for the Rangers. Behind the screen. He doesn't take it. Now leans in. Scores. When you think that he is in trouble, and when you think he maybe is forced a shot up, it goes just as cleanly as the others. Alford with 10. Indiana leads by 3, 20-17. Scott Roth, Weber, J.J. over Simmons. That's good. J.J. Weber is 6'7". Simmons is 6'5". Weber has 7. His average. 2019. Simmons on top of the block. He turns around, scores.
Looked a little off balance that time as he spun. A great pass from Marty. Not much of an angle there, but he got the pass in there and looked like Ube was off balance and just hit a hard shot.
Ross back to Smith. Here's Olsen coming out now. He's got the ball. Won't fall. Indiana will let it go out of bounds, and Ed Marisette says it's Hoosier ball.
There we get a shot of the Indiana bench, and Darrell Thomas did make the trip up.
That was
today.
doubtful. We didn't know that.
And he has been practicing this week. He's gone about 20, 30 minutes at each practice. His knee does swell up. He has to put ice on after each workout, but he has done well enough to come on the trip and may see some playing time.
Drive. Rick Olsen with his third field goal. The senior from Madison, La Follette. Averages 16 points on the year. And listen to this crowd. It's a near sellout crowd. They came here tonight, even though the Badgers are 1-8, possibly to see Indiana. There's a foul. Olsen over the arm. And that will be the first against Rick as Steve Yoder goes to his bench. Number 41 is Robert Barnes. And number 54, Jay Laskowski. Laskowski, 6'8", and a junior from Stevens Point. And Barnes from Racine, Wisconsin, 6'8", and we have timeout. You're watching Indiana basketball on the Farm Bureau Insurance Basketball Network. The score, the Hoosiers 22, the Badgers 21. 13 seasons, and John, you were on that team that lost its first 4 Big Ten games.
Indiana's starting to turn this thing around, so they have not played well so far here in the first half, though.
Bob Knight looks for 3 to 4 passes on any series down court. Indiana's already passed a 3. There's the 4th pass. A step up by Morgan and a shot, and it won't fall and tipped out of bounds. It'll be Indiana ball. Robert Barnes, the 6'8" freshman, had a hand on it, deflecting it away from Block. So Marty Simmons comes in to Alford. Alford has 10 points. Lob to Blop. Look at this position, and gets the fall of the ball.
Morgan does the best job of anybody of looking high for Uwe when he just has a half a step on his man. And again, Winston that time saw Uwe with his hand outstretched and hit him with a good pass.
Barnes to Smith. Over to Olsen. Look how quickly he flashes to the ball. Tipped up and in. And I believe that goes to Weber.
Indiana now with Simmons guarding Weber, and he only averages 7 a game, but he's got 2 already on the rebound basket.
Well, he has 9 points, so J.J. Weber has been a threat in this game so far. Alford, it won't fall. And Weber for the Badgers. Now Wisconsin can take the lead. Drive. Weber. No good. And the rebound to Morgan. Wisconsin, John, appears to be crashing from about 12 feet away. Here's a steal. Weber is all over the court tonight. Olsen misses. And the rebound to Block. And he shakes his head looking at Morgan. This is sort of a racehorse game Indiana doesn't want to get into, John.
No, exactly right, Chuck. Want to set it up. Look for that good offensive shot.
Out to Morgan. Now let's see what Morgan could do. Simmons moves on the point. Lob inside the block. He has the possession. Uses the glass.
Much better pass by Isle. The first time, it was Isle's defensive man who stole the pass to Uwe. He just sloughed off and made the steal. This time, Steve gets a little more height on that pass, and Uwe's able to come up with it.
Team fouls. 5 for Wisconsin, 4 for the Hoosiers. Robert Barnes, they leave him alone. He'll fire. No good. And the rebound to Alford. Connorsville sophomore across the line, or the Newcastle sophomore across the line. Still thinking about Mike Heineman. We want to find out how bad that hip injury is. Another lob to Isle, but he uses the court. Travel. John, I actually think he felt he might have been a little deeper under the basket than he was and moved around to the reverse side. Committed the travel.
We haven't seen a lot of those foot travels, though, against Uwe recently. But he may have gotten too far into the basket and wanted to move outside for a better angle.
Olsen picks up, and there's the foul. And Weber aggressively to the basket. Comes over the shoulder of Todd Meyer in the lineup for Steve Isle for Indiana. Weber's first, the 6th against the team.
His first team.
One more, and Wisconsin will be over the limit. Indiana will be in the bonus situation. We have 5 minutes, 4 seconds remaining. Indiana leads by 3, 26-23. Live from Wisconsin Fieldhouse in Madison, Wisconsin. And through the hands of Marty Simmons, he'll solo. Here's Barnes. Loses the ball. And it comes back in. Weber turns against Simmons, rolls it across the rim, and Morgan, well, both benches are livid. Steve Yoder is just wild. Delray Brooks will be checking back in for Indiana as Bob Knight goes right away to make some changes. Meyer. Morgan. Block. Oh. Sheldon Smith pulls up. It doesn't fall. Now we are just exchanging 94 feet, John. Now Morgan, let's watch. He slows it up. Alford from the line. That should be 2. It is automatic.
That's the time.
Indiana brought it up the floor quickly and went after one pass, but when Alford has a 15-foot shot, it's a good shot.
Wisconsin calls timeout as Olsen steps across the stripe. And with that, we'll tell you you're watching Indiana basketball at Wisconsin Fieldhouse in Madison, Wisconsin. The score, Indiana 28, Wisconsin 23.
Indiana, you know us.
Good afternoon. What city, please?
At home, you know us for convenient custom calling services like three-way calling. At work, you know us for modern efficiency with communication systems like Centrex. You know us to lead the way with new technology like fiber optics. More importantly, you know us to be there when you need us. You know us as the phone company.
Tax sale time at your Central Indiana Datsun dealer. Time to save more than ever before on a new Nissan car or truck during our 1985 tax sale. The sale that includes 8.8% financing on every new Nissan pickup. The best selection, the best deals, the best time to buy right now during tax sale time. Time for you to save.
Your Central Indiana Datsun dealer. They're dealing today.
The time remaining, and the score, Indiana's largest lead, 28-23.
Interesting point for you young fans as we take a look at Coach Knight. That runaway fast break Wisconsin had, a 2-on-nobody. Barnes goes in to make the stuff, and then all of a sudden the ball comes loose. Wisconsin makes a good save. Now, if Indiana doesn't hustle down the floor, Olsen could save that ball and go right in for an easy layup, but there were 3 Indiana players there for defense. Barnes takes another shot and still misses. Indiana comes out with the rebound. Even though it looks like somebody's wide open, you still hustle down the floor because you never can tell what might happen.
Jay Laskowski, they leave him open. He's not a bad shooter from outside, but they lose some rebounding ability. Wisconsin does with Laskowski. He steps in, offhanded shot, no good, and a whistle, and the foul goes against Indiana. Delray Brooks really teamed out by Wisconsin that time. Number 42 is Rod Ripley. And number 41 was Robert Barnes. Look.
All right, Delray went and let his man come right around him. There you see 42 is Rod Ripley. I don't think Delray's used to playing inside with a guy who's 6'7", 6'8". And although Coach has him playing a forward, he's got to learn to keep his man away from the basket, because in this league, everybody can jump well and can go after the rebound.
Ripley is a 6'7" sophomore from Pulaski, Wisconsin. And he gets 2, hits the first. They said fouled in the act of shooting as Bob Knight will call Eric Harmon over to talk to him.
Coach felt it was on the rebound. Indiana not over the limit yet, so there would not have been a 1-and-1. The referee called in the act of shooting for 2 shots.
Let's watch Brooks, Todd Meyer. Indiana has overloaded right side. Now Morgan comes out, coming around this Brooks for the ball. They're looking for Alford behind a double pick, and it rolls. Look at this. When you've got the right action and the right attitude, sometimes the angle falls your way too.
Steve's working hard to get open on those picks. The double screen down. He's got to set his man up, turn and face the basket, and get the shot away before the defense can recover.
Barnes, Laskowski, Smith knocked away. Good defense by Morgan, playing over the shoulder, denying the pass.
Now, that's the defense Indiana needs inside. If you're going to play defense in the Big Ten and let your man get the ball in the free throw line, in this case in that red area, it's too late to guard him after he's already got the ball in the paint.
Block with the deep board for Indiana. The Hoosiers trying to settle down with a 5-point lead, 30-25 to Alford. Uses Brooks. Brooks pushed away. Alford up off the glass. Oh, I thought the ball was going to roll off the glass, but just sneaked over the rim.
He's got a nice soft touch in there, and even though he had a big forward trying to block that shot, he threw a little hook up there and it rolled in.
2.5 minutes. Indiana's lead is 7. Laskowski. Around it goes. Here's Barnes inside the line to Smith. Smith will pull up. Good 14-foot shot by Sheldon Smith, his first basket. And the freshman from Cathedral, Indianapolis, is in the book. 32-27. No good. Block tip. Loose ball. Laskowski across the line. Indiana leads by 5. Smith. Inside, they try to go. Barnes, no place to go with Blopp. Getting behind him. Roth, back outside. Barnes, no good. Indiana on the help side. And another rebound for the guard, Steve Alford, who has 17 rebounds in Big Ten play, 57 through the 19-game season. The stats to this stage. Alford shot misses. Morgan rebounds, follows, scores!
Much better play by Winston since he's been in the game. Coach took him out for that bad pass. He's put him now inside. He's guarding Roth, their big scorer, and yet coming up with some rebounds at the other end.
Entire Indiana bench up to cheer these 5 on. Laskowski. Smith wants to look inside. Smith drives and shoots and scores.
Smith likes to go to his left, dribble with his left hand and take that shot. Indiana defensively has got to force him to his right, let him dribble with his right hand.
Indiana will be playing for 1 shot. The game clock says 35 seconds, 34 seconds, and it was the same as the shot clock, so the shot clock does not come into play. Let's look at that foul.
Delray on a drive, and Roth goes from behind. We see this foul called almost all the time when the player reaches from behind. So Delray will be at the line with 1 in the bonus.
John, is it more or less the opinion of an official that that is almost an impossible deflection for a player?
The timing is so delicate on that you just have to be a split second to make a clean steal. And I think most people, it's very difficult to time your steal just right to knock the ball. Most of the time you knock an arm or a leg.
Brooks had an opportunity to put Indiana back up by 7. Instead, it's a 5-point lead and a chance for Wisconsin to work its way back. But here's a travel and a good call by Ralph Rosser as J.J. Weber tried to work it in against a trap by Indiana.
Simmons did a good job of moving his feet to stay in front of him, and then Meyer came over on the help when he tried to wheel inside. Meyer was there to help.
They look for Alford. This man handling the ball under to Morgan. It will not fall. And once again, the crowd around the basket. 1-shot desperation off the glass by Scott Roth. And the teams will go to the dressing room where undoubtedly they will receive 15 minutes of instruction from each of their coaches. Steve Yoder for the Badgers and Bob Knight for Indiana. Knight has a word with Ralph Rosser before he leaves the floor. There you see the halftime score. Indiana 34, Wisconsin 29. We'll be back to check individual scoring and our halftime in just a minute.
We like to see you smile, that feeling, good feeling, that smile on your face. Says you like that kind of place. Hooks likes to see you smile. Hooks is the name you trust, and we won't stop trying to give you our best. Hooks likes to see you smile. We like to see you smile.
Hey, man. Your son's a material witness to a homicide. I want you to tell me everything you saw.
You said we would be safe in Philadelphia.
Well, I was wrong.
He left with the Amish woman, right?
John, what's going on, man? What is happening?
Harrison Ford, Kelly McGillis.
If they find me, they find the boy.
Witness, rated R.
Starts tomorrow at a theater near you. Check paper for times.
He'd been out of touch for a good long time when he heard of McDonald's new taste find.
New cheddar melt.
A 3rd pound of beef and the sauce was cheddar. Grilled onions, too. What could be better? It's big, it's bold.
Cheddar melt.
It's a good time for the great taste. You go. The McDonald's.
New cheddar melt.
Get 30% more fries free when you order large fries with a cheddar melt or any large sandwich now at McDonald's. 30% more fries free.
You'll find a variety of quality True Test paints to meet your needs and budget during President's Day paint values at True Value hardware stores. Make painting easy with the new line of Easy Care, like latex flat finish for the living room and bedrooms, just $9.98 a gallon. Use latex semi-gloss for bath and kitchen areas. It's only $12.98 a gallon. And choose Easy Care Latex Flat Enamel for kids' rooms and hallways. Also just $12.98 a gallon at participating True Value hardware stores.
34-29 is the halftime score. You're looking at the Wisconsin Pep Band under the direction of another good friend of many of us in Indiana, Michael LeCrone. He is the Wisconsin counterpart to Professor Wilbur England at Indiana University, and they do a fine job here in this field house. A 5-point Indiana lead. And, John, as we look at what has transpired in the first half, it certainly is not the same as what we saw down in Bloomington when Indiana really blew it out against these Badgers in January.
Right, defense is always the key, and against Minnesota, Indiana played the defense. And I think a lot of things people forget. You see a guy come into the game, and he's got a 1.2 average in the Big Ten or whatever it may be. You got to remember, all these kids on both teams, when they played in high school, they all averaged 20, 25, 30 points a game, and they all played inside a lot. They all played in the 3-second lane. They know what to do with the ball once they get it inside. So if you're going to let any Big Ten team get the ball inside the 3-second lane, like I said in the first half, it's too late to guard it, and they'll revert right back to what they did in high school, and they'll score as well as anybody. So Indiana's defense has not prevented Wisconsin from getting the ball inside, and that's too late to play defense.
John, an interesting thing is since the most recent years when we've had the 18-game schedule, and it's been a round robin where you've had a home and home, both teams really have to prepare for each other twice. The first meeting, a lot of times you can go on what the team really likes to run, and you're doing this with more or less unseen talent. The second time around, they've seen you once, they know what you can do.
Right, Wisconsin was beaten badly at Indiana, so obviously they've studied some game film, regrouped their strategy a little bit, and came out here and saw a weakness in Indiana's defense. They've got to get the ball inside. Indiana's going to have to make a change in that in the second half.
Interesting halftime for you. We'll be back with that in just a moment. Tonight's game is being brought to you from Madison, Wisconsin Fieldhouse, where at halftime the score is Indiana 34, Wisconsin 29.
Okay, 23. Who's going to be first? 27, 28, 29. How about it, Willie? You want to go a couple rounds? Not now, Tony. I've got to work on the back. That's it, Will. Leo? Come on, guys. I want to be the champ. World champion. Okay, Zelensky. I'll go first. Thanks, Will. Good pal.
I am Tony Zale, and that's the way it was.
Another Indiana legend, brought to you with pride by Farm Bureau Insurance.
Computers? You bet we use them at Amex Coal. And we've taken the computer to the coal mine. This is the second largest walking drag line in the world, with a boom 35 feet longer than a football field. In this unit, it's a computer that records the dragline's movements. It helps improve productivity through increased machine efficiency. As productivity goes up, it helps bring down the cost of those electric bills that all of us receive every month. Modern technology and productivity, keywords at Amex Coal.
When I was a kid, I worked one whole summer to save $5 for a football. Talk about learning the value of a dollar. Now I have more to save. And AFNB gives me the advantage of more ways to save it. Safely.
More people save more money, more ways at American Fletcher National Bank. The advantage is yours.
AFNB. That's the place for my money.
Teaching, research, and public service. Each of these roles is interrelated, and one builds upon another at a major university. All are essential to a vital teaching, learning environment. Tonight, I'd like to tell you about just a few of the research projects being conducted on some of the IU campuses. When we think of research at a major university, we conjure up thoughts of microscopes and test tubes and electronic gadgetry. But most of the research that affects our personal well-being is done out in the field, out in the workplace, talking with people about employment and business opportunities. One such area is in northern Indiana, where there are employment cutbacks because the steel industry and manufacturing plants have reduced their workforces. Professor Leslie Singer from the IU Gary campus is looking at the prospects for new industries and employment in northwest Indiana.
If any industry comes to this area, it has to be a growth industry. This area is no longer going to be this, solid, so-called rust-type industry. It's going to change. In order to do that, we have to change the essential features of the labor force. The labor force we have now, particularly the aging part of the labor force, is not sufficiently flexible to really be attractive to the new industry. So we have to rely on the labor force between, say, 20 and 30 or 35, and that is really where the universities come in.
History professor Patrick Furlong at IU South Bend has been doing his own research on the economy of the South Bend area and the effect of the demise of the Studebaker automobile.
History helps the community understand how it arrived at the position it's in today. In other words, for a community like South Bend, we have to understand its industrial past and why the nature of industry in South Bend is changing. There's still people here who dream of an automobile industry coming back. I think that's a hopeless dream. There is a future for industry in South Bend, but not manufacturing cars.
Another people-oriented research study is taking place on the IU Gary campus. Edward Heller from the School of Public and Environmental Affairs is recognized nationally for his research on the effects of asbestos on respiratory problems in human beings.
You can pretty well estimate that 1 out of 17 children who have had any long exposure and being in a classroom for 5 hours, 6 hours a day, 5 days a week for 9 months, you're going to get some pretty long exposure, even if the exposure is just relatively disturbed air, where there might be one fiber per million, but there's enough relatively undisturbed air, but there's enough fibers in that air that, at least according to Dr. Salikoff, a real and imminent hazard exists.
We've just scratched the surface of a few of the thousands of research projects taking place on all 8 of the Indiana University campuses. But each research project, whether basic or applied, adds to the body of knowledge affecting the personal and economic well-being and lifestyle of every Hoosier. I'm Kit Field-Kruger for IU Halftime.
We're still at halftime. Neither team has reported back on the floor. The score 34-29, Indiana with a 5-point lead. Observations, John, on what we have seen in the first half so far?
Right, what I talked about, we've got a little stat sheet here that shows where the shots were taken from. Indiana took 29 shots, 11 shots from inside the foul lane, 18 shots from outside the foul line. Wisconsin took 36 shots, 19 inside the free throw lane, 17 from outside. So Wisconsin has 8 more shots inside the red area, yet Indiana still leads. Indiana's got to stop those shots in the second half.
All right, interesting observation. Now, let's pause to hear from our local stations. This is the Farm Bureau Insurance Basketball Network.
University of Wisconsin varsity band in Barton.
The congestion at some of the nation's busiest airports is pretty bad.
Roger, 290. You're 18th for takeoff.
If you've had enough of this, Republic Airlines thinks you deserve perks. That's why Republic flies to the major business destinations through uncongested airports, and that's one of our nicest perks.
With our Ultimate Super Savers, you'll feel like flying more than ever before.
As your company prospers, something unexpected can happen. You may outgrow your phone system and start losing business, which is a good reason to choose a business communication system from GTE. We'll design one to grow with your company to keep your phones efficient. And that's a lot better than having a system that doesn't measure up.
Hello?
GTE, the smart business call.
We like to see you smile. We know that you're busy with no time to spare, and you need someone who cares. Hooks likes to see you smile. We're here to help you say that she's someone special. We'll show you the way. Hooks likes to see you smile. We like to see you smile.
Still waiting the teams as we hit the 3-minute mark. They should become, as a matter of fact, Indiana's coming out right now. All right, thanks to Jim Gerstle, the J&J Air Charter, who brought our crew up here today. We had delightful flying weather, John, and expect the same going back tonight. Here's Indiana, and in just a moment, Wisconsin will be breaking to the basket. Indiana shooting the first half 55%, Wisconsin 36%. Both teams somewhat average from the line. Indiana 2 of 4 for 50%, and Wisconsin 3 of 5. Now, stay tuned for second half action. We'll be right back after these messages.
Remember your first car? It was all you ever thought about. Remember?
Anything else?
Yeah, you got any mufflers?
Mufflers?
Mustard. I mean mustard. I had Farm Bureau auto insurance then, and I've got Farm Bureau auto insurance now. Anything else? Oh, have you got any mustard?
Protecting Indiana families for 50 years.
This Bud's for everyone who scrapes it, sprays it, and lays it on smooth.
This Bud's for you, for all you do. The king of beers is coming through.
Yeah, just for you. That distinctively clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser.
For all you do.
This Bud's for you.
You know, you've all heard that Lasso delivers a better yield. Well, we're confident enough in Lasso to put our money where our mouth is. If you're using dual herbicide now, compare it to Lasso in your own side-by-side fields. See for yourself. Lasso delivers extra yield, or we pay the difference in cash. Ask your dealer or call this number toll-free for details about the yield guarantee. Only from Lasso, the yield protector.
It's your Indiana Ford dealers Everything Goes tax sales event. Our last chance to get rid of everything in stock before we get taxed. And your last chance to save on a wide selection of new and used cars and trucks. Forget the sticker price. Forget the blue book. Everything goes for less. Top dollar trade-in allowances, easy financing, and your final chance to save before inventory tax time. Everything goes, everyone saves during your Indiana Ford dealers Everything Goes tax sales event. But it all ends February 28th. Unless everything's gone.
Chuck Marlowe with John Laskowski from Wisconsin Fieldhouse in Madison, Wisconsin. With John, 2 games tonight. One is a surprise. The other one might have been expected to go that way, but that surprised that Michigan State game.
Michigan State 64, Illinois 56. Illinois lost another one on the road. Illinois now 6-4 in the league. That moves Michigan State also to 6-4. And another final, Michigan 95. Purdue 84. That moves Michigan back into a tie with Iowa. Both teams at 8-2. Purdue moves to 5 wins and 4 losses.
And very quickly, Steve Alford and Uwe Blop, the leading scorers for Indiana. Alford leading both teams with 16, Blop with 10. For Wisconsin, it's Weber with 9, Olsen with 6. So Indiana's done a pretty good job in the first half stopping Olsen from scoring. Rebounding leaders, Blop has 6. Alford and Morgan each 4. Weber has 6. For Wisconsin. Turnovers, John?
7 for Indiana, just 2 for Wisconsin. So Wisconsin has stayed in the game with the shots they've taken from inside that 3-second lane. That and the turnovers will be the key here in the second half.
34-29, a 5-point lead for Indiana starting the second half of play. Interesting note, when the Hoosiers came out to shoot their second half warm-up, there was no ball. They had to stand. Bob Knight came over and looked at the officials. Ed Marosich, the referee, looked around. He didn't know what to do. And finally, Ralph Rosser walked over and picked up the official game ball to give them at least one ball to shoot with. And by that time, then the student managers for Wisconsin had come out. They brought the others out there. So Indiana was able to get in some warm-up. It'll be the Hoosier ball to toss it in. They go with their starting lineup, with the exception of one change, and that is Morgan for Robinson. Now, driving Sheldon Smith is on Alford starting the second half. Here's Isle outside, and stepping up to take him is Weber. Back to Alford. They look to Blop. Blop is in range, but punches it back out. Isle will shoot and doesn't get the ball. Plus with the rebound. Olsen Morgan right off his shoulder. Morgan may give up a half a step in speed, but he has a height advantage over the 6'2" Olsen. Roth looking inside. They keep that offense out high. Wisconsin does, steps in, and feeds off to Smith. Kloss. Good position underneath. Indiana controls the boards as Morgan to Alford, and here comes Indiana on the attack. Isle handles again. He's taken the only second half shot. Now Morgan, and 2 for Winston Morgan. He now has 4 in the game. Steal by Alford to the free throw line, and 2 more. Steve Alford, quick play and good recognition by Steve for 18 points.
Wisconsin threw that ball in without anybody really looking for it. And when Olsen went to pick it up, Steve was right there for the steal. He wisely pulled up and made a jump shot.
Won't fall. Tipped out of bounds. Indiana ball. Eric Harmon under the basket, making the call. Eric teases me every time we see each other. He says, "Where's my cigar?" And I keep forgetting. Indiana 38, Wisconsin 29. The Hoosiers with the ball and the lead. And we played nearly 2 minutes. Baseline and a trip. Ralph Rosser making the call. J.J. Weber, totally unintentional, but Isle on the drive caught the leg, and intentional or otherwise, it's a trip and a foul.
Looked like Isle had a chance to get clean around Weber, and then the trip, he went down to the floor.
Morgan. And the pass was a little wider. Alford might have taken that shot. Inside. Meyer gets it right back. Isle makes the fake. Does Alford. Has it knocked away. Recovers. That won't fall. And taken right out of Steve Isle's hands by J.J. Weber. Strong move by Weber. Offensive foul. Good position by Isle.
He really saw Olsen coming real soon. He's already set. All right, now he's getting set there. Olsen takes one more step, then leaves his feet. Watch, Uwe blocks the shot, and then Olsen make the contact. It looked like all 3 officials were right on top of it to make the call.
Oh, I clap my hands. Mike Heineman appears to be all right. He's in. Maybe a little spasm in that hip, John.
Well, he's a tough kid, and I'm sure all the people around Indiana are aware of that. He just wants to play. He's out there in the second half.
Steve Alford, Indiana 38, Wisconsin 29. Morgan, the flop outside. Alford, Isle. John, even though the prolific scoring is in the hands of Flop and Alford, they have to get scoring away from those two, do they not, in order to make them successful?
Unless, if they don't, other teams will just key on the 2 of them. So they've got to keep moving the ball around. They are our 2 best offensive players, but you can't revolve your whole game around it.
Bob Knight will make a substitution, and Isle will come over to take a rest after that errant pass, and here's Marty Simmons. Now, Steve Yoder certainly doesn't want to lose his 9th conference game. I admire what Yoder is trying to do here at Wisconsin. There's a shot, and over the shoulder, it's going to be out of bounds. Simmons last to touch the ball. Again, this Weber. Weber's going to be a good ball player, John. He's only a sophomore.
He does a good job of going for that rebound. Now we've got Marty Simmons on him, and he's still able to get around Marty and get his hand on that offensive rebound.
Uncontested turnovers. You saw 8 to 3. They're not all uncontested by Indiana. Here's Kloss, jammed underneath. Oh, a great save. And here's a steal by Heineman. A dive for the ball out of bounds. It's going to Wisconsin. Super effort by both teams. Simmons diving for the ball. Heineman scrapping on the steal.
Alford went into the Wisconsin bench to make that save, and Winston had a 1-on-3. Got the ball stolen from him going to the basket.
We're still 38-29, looking for points in the second half. Indiana with a 9-point lead. Kloss. Indiana has 2 field goals. There's the first field goal of the second half by Wisconsin. John Kloss, and he's at his average. He has 6. 38-31, Indiana. Alford down to the baseline. Great move. Simmons steps up. He's a good shooter from there. Over to Meyer, and it won't fall. Meyer's had a lot of trouble scoring. It'll be Indiana ball. Good scrap by Marty Simmons. That brings the whole Indiana bench up. Coaches, even the trainer, Tim Garl.
Good ball movement that time inside. Timeout.
15:57 left in the game. You're watching Indiana basketball at Wisconsin Fieldhouse in Madison, Wisconsin. The score, the Hoosiers 38, the Badgers 31.
Me and the rest of these guys, we learned coal mining from our dads and our granddads. You know, kind of carrying on a tradition. You know, aren't many men can do what we do, let alone do it as good.
It's for guys like Dan Jagelski that we make sure every Budweiser is the best it can be. Brewed with the same kind of pride Dan puts into his work. So to Dan, and all you guys out there like him, this Bud's for you.
I remember the first time I heard of Farm Bureau Insurance. I was down at the grain elevator helping my dad load up some feed.
Checked all your equipment. Check that, young fella.
About done, are you?
Yes, sir. We were the first family in the entire county to have Farm Bureau Insurance.
I'm glad to.
I guess we've all made a lot of progress.
Protecting Indiana families for 50 years.
Indiana ball at their own basket. John, I understand your daughter Laura has had a little trouble recognizing her mother recently.
Well, she was Grandma's babysitting, and Laura poked her in the eye. I hope Tom's feeling a little better now.
Yeah. On the turnover, and here's Mike Heineman. Wisconsin trying to get some offense rolling here. Good block. And Alford, before the ball was out of bounds, picked it up. Here comes Indiana. No good. Indiana rushed that shot. John, I think the difference in a play like that, and I'm not trying to coach, just to observe, I think the difference is that had he been coming down on the point in center court, that would have been the shot to take.
I think that was a pretty well under control shot. Really? I think that's the shot you want Steve to take.
Okay, all right. Indiana getting some good board position, and you can well expect, Bob Knight says we need to control these boards better. Indiana, through the Big Ten, 27-plus boards per game. That's not too good. Wisconsin, 21. That's not as good. Alford almost gets the foul. He does. He gets a hand in the face, and they're not going to call a foul. Rosso comes over. Just an official's timeout. There's Ploss over. See if Steve is all right. Stu Robinson checks in for Indiana. Indiana getting a little bit more speed in backcourt. Here's Robinson. Did a nice halftime or an interview with Bob Knight. Here's a turn. The basket will count, and the foul will go on J.J. Weber. Stu Robinson this week on the Bob Knight Show halftime. Want to watch it?
Basket is good. Foul on number 40.
So Block with the basket, his 11th.
Third. Substitution for Wisconsin, number 42.
Now Wisconsin going to its bench, number 42. Rod Ripley back in, the sophomore from Pulaski, Wisconsin, replacing Scott Roth. Roth has only 4 points, averaging 20. As Block with 11. Puts the potential three-point play in the air and misses. 40-31. Indiana back to a 9-point lead with 14 and a half left to play. Smith to Floss. Smith steps up. There's that left-handed shot. Little fall-away shot.
That time going to his right, which is the way you want to force him. But he's really got the flow of that dribble and right into the jump shot. And he seems to be a much better shooter when he's on the move.
Back to Alford. He's just looking for something underneath. It's either Alford or Flop, and Alford takes it and misses. And another good board effort, a good blackout by J.J. Weber. I'll tell you, he's inspired today. There's a good, hard game. Here's Kloss, and they look for the cut across. It was there. Heineman gets the loose ball, puts it back up and scores. make Heineman's first basket.
Good hustle by Heineman. There you see, he's really trying to get his teammates pumped up, and now all of a sudden the crowd is into the game.
Now it's a 5-point game, 40-35, as Alford and Robinson talk on the way down. To Meyer, to Block, to the glass, won't fall. Indiana has trouble on its own basket, and Wisconsin can pull within 3. Sheldon Smith with Robinson up on him. Here's Heineman, and Alford respects him near steal. And a loose ball to Ploss. Smith. Little ball fake, and Robinson didn't take it. Up to the line. There's the shot. It's good. J.J. Weber with his first field goal of the second half, and it's a 40-37 game as Indiana has let 6 unanswered points go up on the board for the Badgers. Block. Round it goes. It won't fall. Todd Meyer just had a lot of trouble with the ball, John.
He's had 2 shots open on the baseline. Just seems to be coming up short all the time, though.
Now Wisconsin emotionally is back in this game and just 3 points off a tie. To Ploss. Heineman will pull it way out. 22 seconds on the shot clock. Weber. What Olsen and Roth have not been able to answer, Weber has. And we have a timeout. Indiana will try to reassemble with 11:45 remaining. You're watching Indiana basketball on the Farm Bureau Insurance Basketball Network. The score, Indiana 40, Wisconsin 39.
The night of the big game comes to light, brought to you by the men and women of the Amex Coal Company. Coal-generated electricity makes the refreshments, shines on the big plays, keeps score, and sends the message home. Touchdown, made possible by coal.
Now American Fletcher really gives you the advantage, because now when you really need a bank, we're open. That includes Saturdays at many American Fletcher locations and longer hours at every banking center. With more banking centers than anyone, the most convenient bank just became even more convenient. Visit your American Fletcher banking center for details today or tonight or Saturday. Longer hours from American Fletcher National Bank. The advantage is yours.
There you see Steve Yoder looking for his second conference win against 8 losses, and they have pulled from a 9-point deficit to within 1.
There's Rick Bowen.
Yes, sir.
Right there in the red jacket. There's the Indiana bench. Coach Knight. Interesting thing, you know, the team always meets just as they leave the huddle. The team meets, the 5 starters meet just on the court to talk about some final things. And Dan Dockage joined them that time, even though he's not in the ball game. He joined him as a team leader to try to get this thing turned around.
Block can't get at the ball, but a foul goes against John Ploss, his third. Now Weber has 3, Ploss has 3, and that sends Block to the line. John, there almost seems to be a lid on that basket. Indiana had a 34-29 halftime lead, and they have scored only 6 points in the last 8.5 minutes.
See, on that replay, Uwe did not follow through. He did not snap his wrist, so the ball came off that backboard a little harder than normal and just didn't get the roll.
Now Block breaks the ice, a long drought, 12 points for Uwe. I say a long drought. With the way the game had been going, 2.5 minutes seems like a long time. Second one for Uwe. It's up and it's good. Indiana with a 42-39 lead. And Block with 13. Now with the 11.5 minute mark, Sheldon Smith to Ploss underneath a whistle. It's going to be a foul against Morgan. Heat coming across the paint by Weber and is called for a hold.
Foul on number 21. That will be the 15th foul on Indiana this half. I'm sorry, that's 4 on Wisconsin. That's Indiana's first team foul. So Wisconsin is the one with the foul trouble here in the second half.
Sheldon Smith to John Kloss. J.J. Weber, that's the man they have to stop. Bounces inside and it's out of bounds off Heineman. Good overplay by Steve Alford, denying the pass. 42-39. Look at that stat. Turnover. And another steal, make that 11-5. Wow. Smith looking over Robinson. It goes to Weber. Right back out to Heineman. 2 more. The 6'3 sophomore from Connersville hasn't lost the shooting eye and appears not to be any of the worse for that hip injury. He has 4 points. Alford, no foul. Alford brings it in and foul on Kloss. By our statistics, the 4th on John Kloss. As you look at Indiana, Bob Knight on the bench, and Kloss will have to come out as Coach Yoder goes to Jay Laskowski. They may pronounce that Laskowski too, John. I don't know.
Alford just didn't have a lot of room here. He got Sheldon Smith off his feet and drove to the basket. 3 big men around him. Steve did his best to draw that foul. He'll be at the line.
The reason why, Isaiah, I don't know. I haven't had a chance to talk to the boy. I've asked 3 different people here at the university and gotten 2 different answers on how he pronounces his name. He gets the roll of the ball. Wow, 19 points for Steve. His first free throw tonight. And this one falls cleanly. 20 points for Steve. He is now 30 of 31 in conference play, a 96-plus average.
Steve missed his last free throw against Wisconsin back at Indiana. He has now made 22 straight since that miss.
44-41, the Hoosiers by 3 as we near the 10-minute mark. Heineman trying to direct the offense from a high point. Weber doesn't fall. Good crash to the board. Weber back again, blocked away. Here comes Alford and a foul. And Heineman and Alford collide. That is the 7th team foul against Wisconsin. And will send Indiana to the line. Let's wait and see.
His second team 6th.
That's only the 6th. There was a light out on the board here at Wisconsin. We had to check our statistics thinking we might have missed one. The 6th against Indiana, so 1 more and the Hoosiers are in the bonus. 41-44. With a 3-point, hoping, looking to extend to a 5. Brooks looking underneath. Block doesn't come through. Del Rey again. This time he has block on the ball side. Now Robinson. That was nearing a 5-second. Baseline Morgan. And I don't believe that Bob Knight thinks that was a travel. But he does get to the team and yells across at Brooks to get into the offense.
Wants Del Rey to quit dribbling as much. He dribbled all around there and almost got himself into a trap. You got to move the ball on the pass, not the dribble.
Now Wisconsin with a chance to pull back to within 1. To Heineman. Off the top of the key to Laskowski. To his Rod Ripley. Sheldon Smith. And good alert play by Winston Morgan. Bob Knight sitting patiently on the bench as Alford directs the offense. Now to Robinson, back to Steve. Wants the shot. Sheldon Smith is playing Steve a good job, and Indiana can't set the pickup for him. And there's an air ball. Good save by Alford as he crashed to the board, saw the air ball, put it right back in Morgan's hands, in the block. Block leans up, shoots, and it won't fall. Laskowski and a foul on Morgan. And Knight just looks down the bench. He's going to go to Dan Dockage. Let's look at that, John.
It's rebound by Laskowski. Winston comes over, and he's trying to get a hand on it, but when you reach around with both hands like that, most of the time the call will go against you.
Dan Dockage, number 11 from Merrillville, played his high school ball at Gary Andrean in from Oregon. 41-44. Wisconsin trying to work it around, a whistle away from the ball. It's going to be called on Brooks. On Del Rey, that's foul number 3.
Number 23, Del Rey Brooks.
The freshman comes over to talk with his mentor.
Wisconsin's done a good job, and their two big players, Roth and Olsen, have been on the bench when they've made this run to get back into the ball game.
Laskowski to Heineman. J.J. Weber. Back to Laskowski. Sheldon Smith left hands it up and through. 44-43 with 7:40 left to be played. It's tough to win on the road in the Big Ten this year. Knocked away foul. And that will send Indiana to the line as Sheldon Smith picks up personal number 1.
Foul on number 24.
Steve has now got people coming out after him on that jump shot, so he's been able to make the drive. Smith, he got around Smith, so Smith reached in for the foul.
Steve Isle back in for Indiana. Let's see. It's going to be for Del Rey Brooks. So Indiana gets some height back in. Pardon me. Isle close to 6'8". For Brooks at 6'5". Alford with 1 and 1. Gets it. Steve over his season average. He has 21. And now 22 as he's 4 for 4 from the stripe. We have timeout. You're watching Indiana basketball on the Farm Bureau Insurance Basketball Network with 7.5 left to be played. The score, Indiana 46, Wisconsin 43.
A Valentine card for Louise. Imagine taking a blind date to your senior prom. How brave we both were. But it was love at first sight. And now, 20 years later, it's still love at first sight.
American Greetings always finds new ways to say love.
Look for American Greetings Valentine's Day cards at Hook's dependable drugstores.
You look at Bob Knight, and he's barking out to the huddle of the men out there on the floor right now, which is comprised of Blopp, Alford, Robinson, Isle, and Dockage. 2 seniors, Blopp and Dockage, a junior, Stu Robinson, a sophomore, Steve Alford, and a freshman, Steve Isle. Wisconsin to bring it up, trailing 46-43. We have 7.5 left. Sheldon Smith, former Cathedral star, does a good job on Robinson, getting the ball up. No call. Here's Ploss. And back outside, knocked out of the hands of J.J. Weber, but recovered by a Badger. Laskowski, shooting averages. Indiana's has fallen off a little bit, largely due to their ineffectiveness at their own basket, right into the court. 11 seconds on the shot clock. Laskowski turns around, takes the shot. You're going to hear Black pull it down with an intensity under there. Trying to inspire the club, John. I'll tell you, all you need is just sort of a mean look coming down with the ball once, and that might do it. And there's 2.
Alford with the shot. Uwe with a good rebound. Steve looks like he's got his rhythm now.
48-43. John, explain the rhythm if you can.
Steve looks to be a much better shooter when he's got his feet set under him and is leaping toward the basket. That time a good lead pass had his momentum going toward the basket. And even though it only been one pass and he didn't dribble, he still was moving up and had good form on his shot.
Right into the hands from Isle to Robinson. Here comes Indiana. They have a break. Doesn't get the shot. Alford tried the reverse layup on a good pass from Robinson. It wouldn't fall. Jimmy Cruz is up. He had many good games with him. Cruz, an assistant with Indiana, just claps his hands.
Good pass by Robinson. Steve just needs a little more spin off that backboard to make that shot go.
Sheldon Smith inside the line over to Laskowski, and it doesn't fall. Contact underneath, and Heineman chases it out. John Floss, you see how far off Blob plays him. He knows he's not going to shoot that far out. Weber. Laskowski. Now Heineman. 10 feet off the top of the key. Loose ball. And a struggle for the ball. There's a travel. Good pressure by Isle.
Indiana's come through with some defense when they've needed it. Now Olson's going to check back into the lineup for Shelton Smith.
Do you think the sit down by Olson, by Yoder, can make a difference here? Does he have to work harder, John?
Smith really did a good job while he was in there getting his team going. I think now Yoder wants to get that shooting touch by Olson. Wisconsin's down by 5.
Robinson, Dockich, Alford, Olson on Alford. Inside the block, there's the lob, knocked out of his hands. Ube just couldn't get both hands around the ball. Watch out, Olson, he's deadly when he's got the ball in his hands. There's a double pick. And Olson's back out for the ball, drives, shoots, lays it off to Floss and gets the roll. John Floss with his second field goal of the second half. That was sort of an ad lib, John.
Indiana was forced into a switch that time, and Stu and Steve, so that left Steve on Olson. He made a good pass.
Block? Yes. Olson's third foul. Scott Roth back in as we look at it again. Good quick first step by Steve Alford.
Right, he's going right to the baseline. Olson makes the play. One thing about making the substitution on Olson for Smith, Wisconsin comes in with a little better firepower from offensively with Olson, but they give up a little bit because Olson is now on Alford. Smith is a little quicker and can stay with Steve a little better than Olson will be able to.
Steve has such a great attitude. The other day he was quoted after all the problems in the paper as saying, the coach is trying to make a point with me, and I'm trying to listen. I think I'm learning. 2 for 2. Indiana by 5, 50-45. Now they're playing Heineman and Olson in the backcourt. Again, Robinson. Now Robinson's caught in the pick, but he slides across. Here's Floss with a turnaround, and once again gets the good roll of the ball. 50-47. We have 3 minutes, 58 seconds. Inside the 4-minute mark. Alford steps up, drops it off to Dockich, to Isle. They'll look inside. They're trying to post Alford low. Now Steve has the ball. He wants to work on Olson. Dockich will not shoot from there. 18 seconds on the shot clock. A good screen by Blopp as Stu Robinson saw the alley.
They ran some clock down, and Robinson makes a good, smart play and drives all the way to the basket.
52-47 Indiana. 3.5 minutes. Offensive foul. Mike didn't like that. This young man has the intensity of a lion.
Let's see. Heineman makes his mind to go. Now Robinson's making his move over, and there's the contact.
They will put Indiana at the line. Apparently had lost control of the ball or after the shot, John. I did not see where the ball was. Here's Stu Robinson. 73% from the line, and Indiana is falling off. There's just something about that basket tonight that makes it difficult here in the second half. Olson. We're nearing the 3-minute mark. Heineman lob inside. Good defense by Indiana. They're really getting help under the basket. All except for there. John Floss, just as soon as I say that, takes a good feed on top, takes an outside step and steps. 52-49. No counter by Indiana. It's off the rim by Alford. And nearing the 2.5-minute mark, Wisconsin can pull back to within 1. Bounces inside. Blocked with a great extension and a block.
He got beat the last time down the floor, and I think he wanted to make up for that. He makes a critical block right there.
Indiana calls timeout with 2:26 remaining. You're watching Indiana basketball on the Farm Bureau Insurance Basketball Network. Indiana leads by 3, 52-49.
The house I grew up in held a lifetime of love and hope and wonderful memories. Now I'm buying a home for my family to grow up in. Got the mortgage where Dad went. American Fletcher.
Get your mortgage from the bank that puts more people in more homes than any bank in Indiana. American Fletcher. The advantage is yours.
American Fletcher, thanks for the memories.
It's just that Billy's not home from his music lesson yet. Hold on, honey. I got a call waiting.
Hello? Mom, I kind of missed the bus.
It's nice to know when someone is missing you, you won't miss their call with Call Waiting from Indiana Bell.
Hey, do you have everything?
I think.
You don't know what you've been missing.
My tuba.
From Indiana
Wisconsin Badger coach Steve Yoder, losing last week to Michigan State, is trying to find a combination, and I know how many times that's been true, John. I guess as a coach, and of course Bob Knight reflects that, because the 4 losses of Indiana certainly not in keeping with Indiana's tradition and style of winning, but nonetheless, you just try everything. And it's a 52-49 game. There are the stats. Indiana shooting improving a little bit. Here's the steal. It'll be Heineman to drive. And for Mike Heineman, and he's been a second-and-a-half catalyst along with J.J. Weber, is 52-51. We have 2 minutes. 2 minutes remaining. And a foul. Olsen called for a holding Alford. And on Olsen, that's his 4th.
Indiana has run the same play, both coming down the floor since that timeout. A setup on the right-hand side, Alford on the block. Uwe and Steve Isle come down for a double pick. The first time Indiana had a turnover. This time, Steve comes off the pick, and Olsen with the foul. That's his 4th foul.
On the 1-and-1, the first is good. Steve's high, 24 points. He now has 27. He surpassed his best, and the second is good, 28. (54-51) Indiana with a minute 50. Weber, Isle doing a good job on him. Close to hand check. Don't let that happen. Olsen gets free, misses. Isle, no, it's blocked on the loose ball. And out it comes all the way on top. They got another effort. And a restart on the shot clock. It's down to 40. Lob inside. Blocked away. Good defense by Steve Isle. He earns his numbers today.
Looked like he was open. Isle makes a great defensive play. Indiana comes up with the ball.
Across the line. Alford in his hands. And that certainly isn't... out of reason that Alford could take it up, pull up for the shot, or possibly get the foul. That could have been a foul. Tries to back in, tries to work it out. And a foul. Heineman with a push on Robinson will send Stu to the line.
10, Mike Heineman is 4.
That's 4 on Heineman.
Steve was trying to draw that foul, had to give it up to Stu. Here's Heineman, smart play there. You see the bump with the leg. You don't want to put Alford at the line in this situation if you're on Wisconsin's team.
54-51, 58 seconds remaining. Here it is. Critical free throw for Indiana. It's good. Stu, not with the average that he had last year. We have a timeout. We'll talk about that in just a minute. 58 seconds remaining. You're watching Indiana basketball on the Farm Bureau Insurance Basketball Network. The score, Indiana 55, the Badgers 51.
One weekend a month, you can take off for the beach, the mountains, or a drive in the country in the Army Reserve.
Subjects spotted. Be all that you can be.
It's no picnic, but it's the kind of excitement no other weekend offers.
Mission completed. We're heading home.
And you'll still have 3 weekends a month to take off on your own.
Find your future in the Army Reserve.
This Bud's for everyone who's got what it takes to make his own breaks.
Are we on? This is Paul Martinez reporting to you from the International Airport.
Yeah, just for you. That distinctively clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser.
From the International Airport, this is Paul Martinez reporting. Thank you, Paul, and welcome to the news team.
To Paul Martinez, my son.
All right, the final 58 seconds. Indiana will be at the line for a shooting opportunity with Stu Robinson to complete the 1-and-1. 55-51 is the score. The Hoosiers with a 4-point lead. Now it will take Wisconsin about 7 seconds to get the ball down and then play toward their own basket. So Indiana will probably not have to work against the shot clock again, John. The second is good. Rolls across the front of the rim and drops. Robinson has 4, all in the second half. 56-51. The Hoosier lead by 5. Out of bounds, and a good step up by Alford. Block gets the containment underneath in the hand. The ball was off the hand of Ploss. And now Alford tries to bring it out and up across the line to Robinson. Knocked away, and he's pushed out of bounds. Oh, they call a travel. Marisic calls a travel. J.J. Weber, and now we have a technical foul. Marisic. Oh, that's costly. Ed Marisic will come over. Apparently Robinson said something. J.J. Weber pushed Robinson out of bounds. Maybe we'll get a chance to see it. Now, Isle and Robinson, and then Alford and Robinson discussing down there as you look over at the Indiana bench. And now Bob Knight calls Robinson over. And the free throw, Rick Olson hits. That's his first point of the second half. 56-51. 35 seconds remaining. Knight and Harmon having some words. Watch Olson. He wants the shot. It doesn't go, but he travels. Eric Harmon makes the call, and a good call. Good hard effort by Rick Olson, but his feet slid out from underneath him as he was going up for the shot, John.
He wanted to get that quick shot away and then call a timeout, but he could not get his feet set and got called for the travel.
And the foul, Olson has just fouled out of the game. With 26 seconds remaining. Well, it's a much better effort. Olson had 28 points against Indiana the last time, and he's held to just 7 on some superlative defensive play. Of course, he sat out quite a bit of the game, but good play by Indiana's backcourt and good switches underneath. And we knew before the game, and you heard some of you were able to hear in some comments by Coach Knight before the game, that Indiana would open up and allow the defense on Olson to slide through. 29 points for Alford. 57-52, 58-52, and Steve is 10 for 10 tonight. 30 points. His best effort of the year. Inside to Heineman. Falls away. Oh, that's good effort by Mike Heineman. 8 points. And Wisconsin calls timeout. 16 seconds remaining. You're watching Indiana basketball on the Farm Bureau Insurance Basketball Network. Indiana 58, Wisconsin 54.
Oscar, you hear your mama calling. Oscar!
Where is that boy?
Go on home.
Oscar, where have you been?
Outside shooting baskets.
Using one of those rusty old tin cans, huh?
I have a surprise for you.
A basketball.
Oscar Robertson, another Indiana legend, brought to you with pride by Farm Bureau Insurance.
Back at Wisconsin Fieldhouse for the final 16 seconds. And it's going to be pressure, of course, employed by the Badgers as Ralph Rosser now listens to Scott Roth, the word that he has for him. Indiana will have the run of the baseline, but it'll be Alford to toss it in. Tradition holds true. Alford will find the man to go to and then get the ball right back. And a whistle. There's a foul, a dead ball foul, a holding foul against Wisconsin. And John, I don't know, a dead ball foul is normally, no, it's a 1-and-1, sometimes a 2 if it's an intentional foul, but they call it a 1-and-1.
Indiana had set the out-of-bounds play, all 5 players right inside the free throw line. Big hand for Mike Heineman as he leaves the game with 8 points. He did a good job of hustling out there to keep Wisconsin in the game. He had to pull Robinson down to prevent that open pass.
Yeah, the Heinemans in Connorsville should certainly be encouraged to see that Mike is maybe not back at 100%, but he is moving well and doing an excellent job, and he's a fine young man. He also will establish some recognition here in Madison, Wisconsin. Robinson off the front of the rim and is taken out of his hands. Here's pressure, 13-12. Sheldon Smith will bring it up. The shot by Smith. It won't go. Tipped up. And a jump ball is called, but it's going to be who's the possession go to. Jump ball, there's no light. It goes to Wisconsin with 5 seconds remaining. Even if Wisconsin should score, Indiana can hold out of bounds unless Wisconsin calls timeout.
Have to try to grab the ball as soon as it does go through. Here's the out-of-bounds play.
In it comes to Roth. He fires. It's off the front of the rim. Indiana has it and wins the game. 1 second remaining. A jump ball, and it goes to Indiana. Well, the fans and some 8,000 or so here this evening. What's the official, John? Did you have that?
8,031 in attendance tonight.
Well, they file to the exit as they recognize the game's out of reach. Steve Alford to Sheldon Smith. And now Mike Heineman comes over with the hand, and Alford now congratulating the bench, Rick Olson as well. Rick had a tough night tonight. Finished the game with only 7 points, fouling out with 26 seconds remaining. But the final score of the game is Indiana 58 and Wisconsin 54. So the Hoosier record now moves to 5-5, and they move into a tie with Purdue. The Boilermakers losing tonight to Michigan. Michigan State defeating Illinois. A big surprise as the Illini are playing themselves out of the conference, a bid for the conference championship on the road, John. And the road seems to have become very, very difficult. I know we're going to have a chance. We have a little time to talk here. Coach Knight has said many times, and I know when he was coaching you, he talked about the ever-important aspect of the game on the road and stressed to you constantly that you're still playing at a 10-foot basket, and the conditions from that standpoint and the size of the court remain the same. He did not try to really make anything different out of being on the road as playing at home. And for that, for the most part, Indiana has enjoyed through the years a great deal of success on the road. What really surprised and I think disturbed Coach Knight a great deal this year was that Indiana started well against the Big Ten, against Michigan, with a strong game. And here Michigan is battling for the conference lead. And then we went over to Jennison Fieldhouse in East Lansing to play the Spartans. And here's a road game that Indiana just couldn't find any combination to work. And then all of a sudden, they lose 3 more games on the road. And then, of course, they lost last week to Iowa at home. They've lost 2 this year at home. One in the conference to Iowa and the other one to Louisville, the first of the season.
Coach has always done a great job of preparing his team, whether it's home on the road. And I think the road affects the Indiana team much less than does the other teams in the conference. Take a look at the Wisconsin team today. January 12th, less than a month ago, it's 90-68. Indiana beats Wisconsin at Assembly Hall. And now you come back to the field house here in Wisconsin, the exact same team. In fact, with Roth and Olson, spent a lot of time on the bench, and now you've got a 4-point game. So for whatever reason, Wisconsin got themselves right back into the game today and did a much better job. So statistically, it's always been tougher for teams to win on the road in the Big Ten. And for Wisconsin, of course, plays better today. I don't know if it's just because they were at home. It's obviously the same players. but it seems to affect the other teams in the Big Ten more than it does Indiana.
I want to make one more point before we leave for a moment or so. Scott Roth comes into the game 20.1 in conference play. He has only 4, both those off field goals in the first half of the game. We've already talked about Rick Olson, 7 points. He only had 5 in the first half of the game, and Rick is about 16 points plus per game in Big Ten play. Just to add to what you said, Indiana played good defense against them. It shows what a good job Steve Yoder is doing up here, because he is able to let the rest of the team recognize that this is going to happen from time to time. The same as it will with Indiana. Blopp's not always going to be able to get to the board. Neither is Alford. He maybe will be good enough from the line to keep things going there, but he's not always going to get to the board. And it's the responsibility of the rest of the team to be able to pick up the slack. That's what you used to do when you were playing in 74 and 75.
Right. The other thing the coach does well is, as far as I'm concerned, prepare a team better than anybody else in the country to go into battle against another team. Now, they'll watch the film from the January 12th game against Wisconsin. Although Indiana had a big win, they still want to find out what else they can do to help stop Wisconsin. They knew they had to stop Rick Olson, and they had to stop Roth. And Roth held to 4 points, an excellent job. Olson so well to the point where Yoder had to take him out of the ball game and go with some other people. So Indiana has scouted Wisconsin, knew exactly what to do, and if not for Shelton Smith coming in off the bench, Heineman doing a good job, Floss hitting the shots inside, and then J.J. Weber, Wisconsin would not have been into the game. So what Indiana tries to do is take away your best offense and make the rest of your players try to contribute more than they're used to. Try to throw the other team out of their offensive tempo.
Okay, we still have some time left. We'll continue with our post-game show after we hear from our local stations. This is the Farm Bureau Insurance Basketball Network.
Hi, I'm Dan Basor. This lake is a real beauty, but it wasn't here a few years ago. It used to be an Amex coal surface mine. Here in the Midwest, the Amex Coal Company works real hard at putting the land back to work again after it's given us coal for America's energy needs. Right, Mother Nature?
Amex Land Reclamation. That's no fish story.
Oops. Amex Coal Company. We're resourceful with the land.
It's easy to get overwhelmed looking for a new office phone system. One sounds good for liability, another for features, or data transmission, or fancy electronics, or whatever. But really, you can get all that with GTE, plus professional installation and 24-hour service. So give us a call, and you can stop looking. GTE, the smart business call.
There's a lot of old-fashioned banking still going on these days. Most of it's pretty painful.
I borrowed this, and I owe you this.
As a Telco Federal Credit Union member, you may qualify for loans with rates about 5 percentage points lower than other banks or savings and loans. Earn high interest on insured savings and certificate accounts. Telco's checking account has no minimum balance or service charge requirement. You also get free legal service, 24-hour tellers, and more. Ask your company to join Telco Federal Credit Union today. We take the pain out of banking.
When Sam here walked into the circus and into my life, I said, here's a man who understands mixed nuts.
Sam Fisher, Fisher Nut Company?
You can't just roast mixed nuts together, higgledy-piggledy.
At Fisher, we roast each kind of nut separately before we mix them. With Fisher mixed nuts, the nuts are mixed, but not the flavors.
Fisher. The flavor is unforgettable.
It's my name no one remembers.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sam Fisher.
Fisher Nut Company?
You look across the floor here at Wisconsin Fieldhouse. I can remember years ago, John, when you were playing, when Kim and Carrie Hughes were here, the lighting here was not really adept enough for TV. It was a very dark floor. A lot of times it seemed to be just a little, not dismal, but and not depressing, but it's just a little bit different to come in here and play. Well, they normally have very warm weather or very cold weather up here in Wisconsin. Today it was 17 degrees when we got in February. That's a little bit unseasonal. It's normally down around 0 or below. They've had the heat on, I think, anticipating 0 or below, and it's a little warm up here tonight.
We are up a little higher. We got some bright lights on, so we're doing the best we can.
I think so. Let's take a look at the standings, see how things have changed.
All right, some changes. Iowa remains at 8-2. They won last night. Michigan with a win moves them up to 8-2. They will play against Illinois this Saturday, but a big showdown next Thursday, Michigan at Iowa, so that should clear up that top rung. And then look and see the separation between Iowa and Michigan. And now you go right down to Illinois and Michigan State tied at 6-4. Ohio State, we don't have a score yet on their game with Northwestern, so that still leaves them at 5-4. Move Purdue at 5-4. Indiana moves to 5-5. Minnesota at 4-6. Wisconsin drops to 1-9, and then Northwestern is 1-8.
John, I think Purdue moves to 5-5. They're in a tie with Indiana now. I believe that they were 5-4 into tonight's game, and with that loss, they're 5-5. But it's an interesting race that's developed, because we have potentially tonight, if Ohio State should win over Northwestern, a three-way tie for, what does it turn out to be, third place or fourth place? Fourth place.
Exactly. Michigan, Indiana wins their first road game against Michigan. All of a sudden, they turn around and come out to lead the league now with Iowa. So what's happening now is Iowa and Michigan have separated themselves now by 2 games from the rest of the field. And this late in the season, although we've still got 8 games to go, a 2-game lead by 2 teams makes it very difficult for those remaining 5 or 6 teams who may be in a run, unless somebody can really start pounding on those 2 top teams, Iowa and Michigan.
Now, there's another interesting point. Following Saturday's game against Northwestern, Indiana will have only 7 games left, and they will have 5 of those at home.
Well, I think that's going to help a little bit. We've got the Purdue, Illinois, and Ohio State, all 3 in a row, and that's the 3 games that Indiana lost, coupled with the loss to Iowa. So that was a tough road stretch for Indiana. Now they have to turn that around when those teams come in. An away game at Northwestern, and then, of course, the Iowa-Minnesota trip will be the 3 remaining road games on Indiana's schedule.
Indiana defensively, since the Illinois game, John, a little bit more recognition to what the responsibility is, do you think?
I thought, especially in the Minnesota game, but today we saw a letdown. I don't have the stat sheet for the second half shooting. I made the comparison at halftime. On the shots that Wisconsin took inside the 3-second lane, and then the ones that they took outside. And I think if I did have that, it would show that Wisconsin was held to a much lower percentage of their shots being in that 3-second lane as opposed to out. Again, I think this boils down to Coach Knight getting the team aside at halftime, and I'm sure he didn't have the stat sheet I did, but I know that he knew that Indiana was giving up too many shots in that lane. So all he did was emphasize to prevent that ball going inside, and that's what kept Wisconsin scoring down the second half.
Kudos, I think, really have to be passed out tonight to the Hamilton, Ohio freshman, Steve Isle. Good anticipation inside, played very alertly to the ball. He got blocked off the basket a few times, but on the loose ball, he was there to either deflect or come up with that control.
He's been a real steady player, and the part of the season there when Indiana lost those 4 games is very inconsistent. If you can find a player to go out there, have very few turnovers, guard his man on defense, come up with some rebounds, hit an open shot when he's got it. I mean, you don't have to be spectacular, but if you've got a player who can do those things, which Steve is doing right now, you've got to find a place for him in that lineup. But exactly what Tom Abernathy did. Nothing outstanding at either end of the floor, but boy, just a good solid effort all the way around, and there's always a place for a guy like that in the lineup.
And his freshman year, I remember, a lot of fans will remember out there, I know you do, against Michigan, a great game against the big front wall of Michigan and their backcourt guard Steve Grody, Brady on the basket, and that was the game John Ritter was knocked to the floor, and Abernathy came off the court and played probably one of his better games as a freshman.
Let's hope Steve Isle will have as good a career as Tommy did.
Yeah. One other point I think we ought to mention was sort of an up-and-down play tonight of Winston Morgan. He seemed to really be in there and attack the boards very hard, came up with some key rebounds. On the other hand, some of the mistakes that Coach Knight talks about, the reaching over foul that he committed going for the loose ball, those are little things, little mental breakdowns that Coach tries to work out.
Right, the turnover pass, he got in the ball game, 10 seconds later he makes a pass, it gets stolen for a length of the court layup, and then Coach pulls him out of the game. Now, you know, everybody talks about what's Coach doing in the last 2 weeks when he benched all these kids, and the thing that really sticks out in my mind is the coach has not changed his philosophy on how to run the team in the 13 years that he's been here. And even in today's game, when a player makes a mental mistake, all right, a bad pass, a turnover, throwing the ball to Uwe when he's at half court, knowing that he has trouble dribbling the ball the length of the court. Those are mental mistakes. So when Winston makes that play, he's got to know he's going to be pulled out of the game. He's got to sit down, think about that mistake, and come back in. Coach went back to him 2 or 3 different times because we needed to have him in there. But I think it makes every player very aware of the situation. When you're going to make a mental mistake, you've got to concentrate when you're on that floor, and I think Indiana concentrates better than any team in the Big Ten.
Steve Alford led both teams tonight with 30 points. Uwe Blob had 13 for the Hoosiers. No one else in double figures for Indiana. For Wisconsin, it was John Ploss with 12. J.J. Weber led the Wisconsin Badgers with 13. Mike Heineman had 8. Rick Olson had 7. Sheldon Smith had 7. Final score again, 58-54 Indiana. Any reproduction of this telecast is strictly forbidden without the express written permission of WTTV and Indiana University, which also has approval of the announcers used in this telecast. Now, this is Chuck Marlowe speaking for John Laskowski, inviting you to join us next Thursday at 7:30 when Indiana meets Ohio State at Assembly Hall in Bloomington. So long, everybody.
You've been watching Indiana University basketball, brought to you for the 13th consecutive year by Farm Bureau Insurance and its nearly 700 agents throughout the state of Indiana. By American Fletcher National Bank, the advantage is yours. By your friendly Hooks Dependable Drugstores. By the men and women of Amex Coal Company, a division of Amex Incorporated, a worldwide energy and minerals company. And by Budweiser, the king of beers. Reach for that distinctively clean, crisp taste that says Budweiser. For all you do, this Bud's for you. This telecast was produced through the facilities of WTTV in Indianapolis. Network arrangements by Broadcast Communications Incorporated. This is the Farm Bureau Insurance Basketball Network.